Okay, there we go, okay. Welcome to Tuesday, February 17th, 2026 meeting. Please silence cell phones, pagers, and other electronic communication devices. Agenda and speaker request forms are located at the back of the chambers. If you want to speak today, fill out a speaker request form, and so we'll call to order. We're all here today, so we have roll call and termination. We're all here. So we have a moment of silence. Commissioner Hadcock, you'll, if you don't mind, leading us in a moment of silence and the pledge, please.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I review and approve the agenda.
So move. Second.
A motion is second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. We're going to move to the consent agenda. The Board of Commissioners uses a consent agenda to act on non-controversial and routine items. The consent agenda is acted upon by one motion and a vote of the board. Items may be removed from the current agenda and placed on the regular agenda at the request of a board member or a citizen. The consent agenda contains the following items. And I'm going to ask, is there any citizens that want to remove anything from the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
6B.
6B, B as in boy? Okay, 6B will be removed from the agenda. How about the
G.
6G? So 6B and 6G will be handled separately. So I get a motion for the rest of these items.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion from Ross Connect, second by Hadcock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll go on to 6B. Acknowledge the auditor's account of the treasurer. So, and we have a citizen that removed this, so I'm assuming he wants to visit upon this one. So, James Bialato, you want to just tell who you are for the...
James Bialotta, I'm a candidate for U.S. House. The reason why I specifically requested this is I don't know what's in the auditor's account of the treasurer, and matters of late have been exposed that are quite bad in terms of violation of accounting methods and procedures. So a while back, I came into this commission and reported how I was double billed for property taxes. I came in, paid with cash, was given receipt, and the following year, my property sold on a tax certificate. And how is that possible? And we debated how that could happen. I found out from other commissioners I was not the only person this has happened to, that someone obviously took the cash and did not account for it. And this was really poignant because I went to and asked the auditor how she did not catch the mistake that we had extra cash that was not accounted for. And now I know how. Last week, I came in to pay my property taxes, were almost $15,000. And I found that the treasurer staff was using white out on a cash intake form that had been double signed. That is an illegal process almost everywhere you look. To have somebody double sign a form and have the ability to use whiteout, when did that whiteout go on? Before or after it was double signed? So what's going on? This should scare the heck out of all of you. Because when you bring in cash and two people count it and then sign off, allowing somebody to use whiteout on the form allows them to change $2,500 into $500, and somebody gets to pocket $2,000. This is ridiculous, and I implore that you add this to an item that's already on your agenda, that you take this into closed session and investigate this matter, because this is some of the scariest accounting practices I have ever seen in my life. And I've done forensic auditing busting corruption in Iraq. And this pales in comparison. Thank you.
Yep, I got a question for you, Mr. Bolano. Do you have any of that information available that you can make available to the commission office, or?
I did. I submitted it to Jordan, and it has the date the form was signed,
Okay.
which treasurer did it, and let me be very clear, even though this treasurer staff was new, the supervisors were right there and watched her do it.
So did you get your proper credit for that cash, or is there any explanation?
That's a great question, because if once it's used white out after the fact, I have no idea.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. So the rest of this report is here. If anybody had any other questions, I'll entertain a motion on this.
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion from Drews, a second by Hadcock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to item 6G. And so I had a computer failure, and I just had this one picked up. So
That's
Commissioner
all right.
Durr, would you, 6G?
Yeah, the reason I pulled it is because I talked to the HR office this morning, and on the personnel actions report that was submitted on the agenda, it showed promotions, but it did not show what the promotions were as far as what the new position was. So I spoke to HR this morning, had them add in those promotional positions so that we could see, you know, I'm moving from a corrections officer 1 or a deputy sheriff 1 to a deputy sheriff 2, or another promotional one for sergeant. So anyway, they uploaded those this morning, and that just got uploaded. There is a copy in the back of the room, but I wanted to point it out to the board that just got added to make that change.
Do you want to continue this item then, or
No.
get a chance to look at it? Or is
It
this-
depends on the rest of the board if you want a chance to look at it, but the promotional information where, you know, that's why we have these columns on here, so that when we're asked to approve pay increases, we can actually see what the promotion is and to what position. So that information, a lot of it was missing off the report that we had. I asked to have it updated. It's updated now, so I just wanted to point it out so you had a chance to see it.
Which columns would that be, Commissioner Drew?
That would be in the new position. So when you have current department and current position, and then it says, you know, why are they getting it? Is it a merit increase? Is it a promotion, et cetera? And if it's a promotion, then it should have what the new position is. And so I think what was added was a deputy sheriff 2, a deputy sheriff 2, a corrections sergeant, an inmate security officer. And so if you just look at, you know, some of that stuff just got added this morning, and so I wanted to point it out, but that's information that should be there for the board to make these decisions.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Hadcock.
So, and I get merit and promotion, and I'm not against those. It's just like every meeting, we have some major merit and promotions, and it's kind of nice to see Commissioner Durr's right, why the promotion, why the merit. It's also nice to acknowledge our employees that are getting those promotion and merits and why. For that reason, we did give a 4% raise this year to the employees. How much does that add to your budget? What that's like, I'd like to know how many merit and promotions are done from each department every month for the reason of budgeting, because as remember from wages before, those wages were increased to the point where it actually caused a deficit in our finances. So every dollar counts to a certain extent in these budget process. Like I said, not against promotion or merits. I'd also like to see a policy, if we could, across the board that everybody follows, so then we know when, how, and where, again, on our promotion and merits from our employees. They're very important to us as well. And we'd like to know, I think, and the public like to know the people that are deserving of those merits and promotions. Jerry, you're right, putting those online and showing people is good transparency. So anything we can do to make that more transparent is always good. Thank you.
So when we do these, like say if it's a promotion, is that like taking someone else's, is that like they're going into somebody else's job, or is that like how does that work? It's not,
So
Sorry,
yeah.
Jerry, go ahead.
is Sandy here?
Hi, Sandy. I guess that would be the question I would pose to Sandy. Thank you. Do we?
So I have one comment on that. So if you look at, and I'm assuming, but if you have like a corrections officer that's going to a correctional sergeant, I would assume that that's a position that's been vacated and a promotion has gone into that. And when you're looking at a deputy sheriff 1 to a deputy sheriff 2, a corrections officer 1 to a corrections officer 2, those are basically, from my understanding, time and position promotions, not that there's a vacancy in that.
There's usually also some training involved. Sorry, Sandy Sortland, Senior HR Manager. There's usually also some additional training that's involved. It is time and service, but it is a promotion moving basically up the wage scale. They've completed whatever training needed to be done for the Deputy 1 or a Deputy 2, and then they're moving into that next position.
Okay, so within each position, do they have different levels in these positions, or? So, yeah,
And
trying to get my arms around
I have a
that.
follow-up question.
Yeah.
Because my understanding that the job description for Deputy 1 and Deputy 2 are the same. Is that the same for Corrections Officer 1 and 2? The job description, I believe, says Deputy 1, Deputy 2. Is that the case or not?
I'd have to look at them again, but there's usually a little bit more training involved. There is a little bit more experience involved. If you look at the skills and experience necessary for the positions, not necessarily the essential functions, but the skills required.
All right. And I believe that the HR office has kind of a policy recommendation that would be a follow-up to some of this discussion that we could cover under that.
Yes, we do.
You do have a recommendation to, oh, okay, so,
We have an agenda item later on the
Oh,
agenda for the
okay.
compensation
well,
policy.
that'll help me get it, because even move, not just going down to some of these other ones like the highway department, and so they've got, there's the same position, so they don't have different positions, but they're looking at a merit increase. What does that mean?
That means that they're getting their annual step increase. They've had their anniversary, and now they're getting their step increase,
Okay,
just like
so
the other
that's the
merit
1-year
increase.
anniversary thing, and we
Yes.
talked about a little bit about that, and that's, okay, okay,
And Mr. Chair,
yes.
I have one follow-up that's not related to this. It was actually on the consent calendar related to volunteers. Can I ask
Okay,
a
yeah,
question?
go ahead. Well,
On the
It says same.
volunteer list, we have that on there, monthly, I believe. And one thing that I think would be kind of cool to see on there is the number of hours monthly that are volunteered and supported throughout the county.
Okay, that's something that I can ask the departments to provide.
All right. I think it would be good information to show that we have, good volunteer participation, and when we recognize them, something to look at how many hours are associated with the volunteerism. And it doesn't have to be by individual. It could just be, a total.
Cool. Okay.
and so we can actually recognize them.
Correct.
That's awesome, okay. I'm getting my arms around this, so you guys have something coming forward that says, hey, we're gonna recommend a different policy that makes more uniformity to everybody? Is that how that works, or we'll talk about it later, is that right?
We will be talking about it later, but just so you're aware, it's basically adding information in for the step increase right now.
Okay. So this may be a question for Jordan, but, so when we do these things, and we have X amount of people, and then when we put the budget in, do we have room for that growth on the budget for those specific people? Or are we taking it out of people that already exist that we didn't hire? What are we doing here?
That would vary by department or office. And so usually what you guys have given the directive to the different department heads and elected officials is that they can continue with their promotion scales and everything like that so long as they maintain their annual budget. And so any of the promotions and everything like that have to be within the budget that you guys set for 2026. And so that's up to them to determine exactly how they do that.
Right.
And that varies. That varies by office.
Okay, I appreciate that, because I don't want to get into
Yeah.
microcosm, but it is it's pertinent to understand what we're doing here. And but if we're just taking it out of positions that we aren't filling, then maybe we should eliminate those positions and have less people, pay those people more, and have them more accountable or whatever. Maybe that's something we need to talk about in a policy,
Yeah.
overall structure or something.
Yeah. Mr.
makes sense.
Chair,
Yes.
I have a follow-up to that.
Yep.
The way that we budgeted personnel for 2026 is we gave the employees a cost of living 2.9, and then a merit increase on average is 1.5. We gave a 4.4% pay increase to the employees. And on the major departments, what we did for, the highway, sheriff, et cetera, I believe we cut their overall personnel by 4%.
4%.
And we did not budget for these promotional positions. So we didn't go in individually and say, how many promotions are you going to do throughout the fiscal year of '26? We said, you have this much money to operate on for personnel, and this is what you operate on. And so, you could say, were these promotions budgeted by us specifically? They were not. We just said, we're giving you this amount of money. This is what you have to operate with.
Right, okay. And I think that probably makes the most sense, so then they can actually run their department and decide where that gets distributed. So we got more questions on this? No? So Sandy, thank you. And then we'll be looking forward to you coming back. So if we could get a motion, we can move
I'm
on.
going to make a motion to approve item G.
Second.
We have a motion from Durr, a second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to the next item. Thanks for putting that spreadsheet together. That's very helpful. Item number 7, speaker request forms. This is an item from the public. For forms required, action will not be taken during this section. Any issues brought forth are not properly noticed. And I know, Mr. Bellato, we have a speaker request form for public and for public comment from you, sir. Oh, yep, okay.
Yes, hi again, James Bialotta, candidate for U.S. House. Now, earlier on 6B, I discussed how I submitted information for Jordan, and that information was submitted to make this an agenda item. And I believe there's a problem going on. Now, although Jordan appears to be a nice and friendly man, he is a bureaucrat, unelected, who is determining what goes on the agenda without commission approval. I asked the chair if he had gotten word about that proposed agenda item, and his statement was that he did not. If those agenda items are not being submitted to the commission, a bureaucrat that's unelected should not be making those decisions without commission approval. And I think that's all fair to public access to your elected officials. I don't know what the policy is in the bylaws, but I believe the commission makes the agenda, not Jordan. If I'm mistaken, I would ask you to revise your policy. It should be walked through at least one commissioner. And I would ask that you fix that policy as soon as possible, or if it's not being done properly, to then go back to the policy and enact it properly. I don't know what else to say other than this puts the citizens in harm's way. Now, Jordan appears to be a nice and wonderful person, but if somebody had a personal complaint on Jordan that he had committed a crime, he simply doesn't show it to you. That's a major conflict of interest. Or maybe Jordan is married to a staff member who somebody has a problem with. Again, he could conceivably hide this from the commission. And that's why it needs double eyes, and it should have commission approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellato. And then we have Sean Wagner, if you're here. Sean? Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
You just want to state who your name and everything, Sean?
William Wagner for the Warriors. I'm here. I didn't see y'all change the data centers till March, but I'd like to put this down for the record for everybody, the citizens, and for the commissioners to hear. Friends and fellow citizens, we gathered here to declare a fundamental truth. The water of South Dakota belongs to the people. This isn't just an opinion, it is the law under South Dakota Codified Law 46-1-3. Our statutes clearly state that the people own the water, and our state's water storage systems are meant to serve as a lifeline for our communities, our farmers, and our families, not a bottomless reservoir for industrial data centers. We must remind our leaders of the high standard to which they are held under Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, known as the Guarantee Clause. The federal government guarantees to every state in the union as a Republican form of government. This means our government is not a kingdom or a corporate subsidiary. It is a representative system where the power remains with the people. Any official who ignores the public public's ownership of our water to favor data centers is undermining the very Republican form of government they swore to protect. Furthermore, we must warn those who would use their positions of power to bypass our rights under Title 18, Sections 241 and 242. It is a federal crime to conspire against the rights of citizens or to deprive them of their rights under the color of law, whether you are an elected official or a corporate agent. You cannot legally strip the people of their property or their voice. Our Article 4, Section 4 of the South Dakota Constitution grants our governor the power to veto and strike down unfair appropriations. We demand that this power be used as a shield. We will not stand by while our resources are diverted. We will use every legal tool, from our state statutes to federal civil rights law, to ensure that the water of the people stays with the people. To the data centers and the lobbyists, we say, our rights are not for sale and our government belongs to us. We will preserve, we will protect, and we will defend South Dakota, the state. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have Mariah Cranny. Is that all right? Thank you. You just give your name for the record.
Mariah Cranny.
You got
Good
the
morning,
floor.
Commissioners. My
morning.
name is Mariah Cranny. I'm a civil rights advocate, and I need to provide public notice to Pennington County. This is in accordance with USC Rules of Civil Procedure, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20 of the United States Supreme Court. The Constitution of the United States has the overarching requirements that every state must follow. States cannot enact their own alternative legislation substituted for the guarantees of the Constitution of the United States. That would mean that the state laws are more powerful than the Constitution. That is unlawful. Clause 1, Amendment 5 states, no person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment of indictment by a grand jury. However, the state of South Dakota has enacted its own alternative legislation that permits prosecuting attorneys and police officers to charge by way of information as opposed to indictment. This is unconstitutional. An emolument violation is when you pay a public official to break the law. The Constitution has two areas that enforce this. Article 1, Section 10 says that no state shall create any law that will impair the obligation of contracts. Police officers, prosecutors, judges are all under a contract to perform based on the oath or affirmation that they took to support and defend the Constitution. The 14th Amendment is the other place that you'll find the reinforcement of this issue, and that is where it states that no state shall create or enforce any law that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of a United States citizen. The privileges and immunities of United States citizens are at a minimum those enumerated within the Bill of Rights, the First Amendments. Unfortunately, the state of South Dakota has enacted a law in its inferior constitution that permits public officials, judges, law enforcement officers, whom you all pay, to violate the Constitution of the United States of America. As a result, there is an inordinate amount of people currently imprisoned in the state of South Dakota illegally and unconstitutionally. Tanala Downing is litigating this issue at the United States Supreme Court. I am here to notify you that if you continue to pay public officials to break the law, criminal sanctions can come from that. Officials must be made aware that paying people to disobey the law is an emolument violation. It is illegal, it is unconstitutional, and it is a crime. I am asking you honorable individuals to please take a look at Clause 1, Amendment 5, confirm what I am saying to be true, and then direct your public officials to act in lawful constitutional manner consistent with the obligations that are codified in the Constitution of the United States of America. I have a notice that I would like to put on the record. Thank you so much. I have 29 seconds. My name is Mariah Cranny. I'm a civil rights advocate, and I'm also here to provide notice in accordance with USC Rules of Civil Procedure, as well as Rule 17 and Rule 20. He had 30 seconds left. Can I have his 30 seconds? The Constitution of the United States is the supreme law of the land. No state, county, court has the authority to enforce policies that contradict the Constitution or deprive citizens of their secured, protected rights, yet that is happening every single day in juvenile and family courts. Across this nation, children are being removed from fit and loving parents, not for abuse, not for danger, but for profit. Under Title 4D and Title 4E federal funding, states and counties receive financial incentives tied to removal of and separation and adoption of children. This means that systems profit when families are torn apart. A federal pipeline of money has turned our children into financial commodities. Unfortunately, this is not conspiracy. This is codified federal funding. It is true.
Can you wrap it up, please, and then I gave you an extra. If you
I am serving you with affidavits of criminal conspiracy containing prima facie evidence of crimes committed by judges and social workers within your county. Our children are not for sale, parents are not revenue streams, and no system that profits from the destruction of families has the moral or constitutional authority to exist. Service has been provided, and the law requires you to report evidence of federal crimes to a U.S. civil or military authority upon receipt. Thank you so much for your time.
Good. Have a good day. Thank you. That, I think, concludes public comment. She said a lot in just 3.5 minutes. If you want to drop that off to somebody, we can, ma'am, Mariah, if you want to drop that off so we can, yeah, because there's no way we could digest all that in 3 minutes, but so. Move on to item number 8, items from the State's Attorney's Office. Mr. Tyler Sobczak. I just want to take the moment to tell you how pleased we are with having you on our side on the commission here, Tyler.
Thanks, Commissioner.
You've done a
I appreciate
wonderful
that.
job, so.
Tyler Sobczak, State's Attorney's Office.
Pardon? I didn't give you guys a chance to vote on it. I'm sorry. If he wants it, we'll do that.
We'll take the compliment as we can get it. Anyways, Tyler Sobczak, State's Attorney's Office. The 2025 legislative session resulted in a requirement for you folks to annually review the open meetings laws annually. Specifically, it's 125.13, which you can see on the screen right there. It says that any agency or political subdivision of the state, that'd be you, is required to annually review the following during an official meeting. 1, the explanation of the open meeting laws of the state as published by the Attorney General. And 2, any other material pertaining to the open meeting laws of the state provided by the Attorney General. So just for this year, they have provided, what do they call it? They're conducting the public's business in public, a guide to South Dakota's open meeting laws revised December 31st, 2025. So per the statutory requirements, now's the date and time that we're going to review these, I suppose. So this should have been provided to you in your material for today, but Jordan, would it be possible for us to get that packet on the board? Perfect. So there's 2 ways we can cut this. We can review just the statutes that are listed in the back, but I figured it might be more prudent and maybe more beneficial to the public if we just go through the Q&A that they discuss at the beginning, and we can go through any laws we need to on the back end. So we'll just start from the top, I suppose. What are South Dakota's open meetings laws? They are the laws that embody the principle that the public is entitled to the greatest possible information about public affairs and are intended to encourage public participation in government. Chapter 125, governing the open meetings, requires that official meetings of public bodies be public and advance notice be given of such meetings. It goes on to define what an official meeting is, and that's one where a quorum is present in which official business or public policy of the body is discussed in public. Who does it apply to? All public bodies of the state and political subdivisions. The county commission operates as a political subdivision of the state with the sovereign power to act as such. No court decisions have been issued on what all constitutes public bodies, which goes on in the statute, but that doesn't necessarily apply to you folks. Are teleconferences considered public meetings? They are. Open meeting laws allow for meetings, including executive or closed meetings, to be conducted by teleconference, defined as an exchange of information by audio, video, or electronic means if a place is provided for the public to participate. That's 125, 1.5 in conjunction with SDCL 125.12 subsection 5. It should be noted that for teleconferences where less than a quorum of the public body is present at the location of the public, arrangements must also be made for the public to listen by telephone or internet. I don't really see us ever getting in a situation where that's applicable, but it's still good to know. How are the public and media notified when public business is being discussed? Well, that would be your notice requirements, of course. We need to have those. We need a posted notice and a copy of the agenda at our office, which we routinely do. And the agenda must include the date, time, and location of the meeting and must be visible, readable, and accessible to the public for 24 continuous hours preceding the meeting. We try to get those out, I think it's Thursday afternoon. So with the Tuesday meeting, we're well ahead of that. Also, if we have our own website, which we do, the notice must be on the website, and that for special or rescheduled meetings, this is kind of a fun one, we need to comply with the notice requirements as the circumstances permit. So really just a case-by-case basis with those. If something comes up quick, we'll do our best, but it really just requires a good faith effort. Moving on to the next page, discussing who are local news media. There is no true definition of local news media in 125. However, 13157 generally discusses those as personnel of a newspaper, periodical, news service, radio station, or television station, regardless of the medium through which their content is delivered. If you think they're news media, they probably are. And the Attorney General defines that term broadly, apparently. Is public comment required? Yes, we all know that. Let's go ahead and skip on to, can public meetings be recorded? Yes. In fact, 12511 requires public bodies to allow recording if the recording is reasonable, obvious, and not disruptive. Something that might be disruptive is, someone standing up or getting in your faces with their camera. We obviously have the authority to shut that down, but if someone's going along their business, then they should be allowed to record, which we've also seen routine instances where we've allowed that. When can a meeting be closed to the media, public and media? For executive session to discuss personnel issues pertaining to officers and employees, consideration of performance or discipline of an employee. They use student as their example. That might be a typo. Consulting with legal counsel under subsection 3. That's the one we most use. Or contractual matters, employee contract negotiations, marketing or pricing strategies, or to discuss information related to the protection of public or private property, such as emergency management response plans or other public safety information. The statute also recognizes that executive session may be appropriate to comport with other laws that require confidentiality or permit executive or closed meetings. Any questions about executive session at this time or closed meetings? Okay, moving on. What is the proper procedure for executive sessions? I've recently been a stickler about the term citing. Having that specific subsection, I think Commissioner Durr is probably the best at it, where you go, move into executive session for 125.2 subsection 3 for legal or contractual issues. That word cite, I personally define very strictly, where if I'm citing to a court case in a brief, I need to be able to talk about Brown versus Board of Education or whatever it is. We need a specific reference to the subsection when making the motion to go in executive session. After that, make the motion to come out of executive session and businesses as usual from there.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Ross, can I
Feller, can executive sessions be recorded?
Well, it's funny. We actually had a conversation about that with our SDPAA council a little bit ago. Well, I think all of you were in that meeting. I think it was in August or September. She was of the opinion that you can, as long as that recording does not make it out of the stratosphere of you folks. So given that, I think it's best practice to just not record it, because you can't, although, you're elected by constituents and all trustworthy folks, we have to cover our basis and also make sure that confidential information is confident. So does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Well, my question was, can we legally record?
Yeah.
Not that we want to or plan to, but I just wanted to know if that's an option.
Yeah, it certainly is, at least in the eyes of the SDPAA council, although it's probably not best practice.
Understand.
Yep. All right, let's go on to the next page then, Jordan. What happens if the media or public is improperly excluded from a meeting or other violations of open meeting laws occur? Well, that would be an open meetings law violation, which can be punishable by a Class 2 misdemeanor, punishable by 30 days in jail, a $500 fine, or both. Most prominently, a reprimand in a referral and a reprimand by the Open Meeting Commission, where they hear the matters at their regularly scheduled date and time, and then ultimately make findings of fact and conclusions of law as to the allegations, or a finding of no merit by a referred state's attorney's office. Someone spoke at the state's attorney's conference in May and stated that there's never been a Class 2 allegation in court. So really, I think what we're looking at here is just the reprimand by the Open Meeting Commission. although the Class 2 misdemeanor is certainly an option available at law. It's just not, it's never been used, actually. This is an interesting one. It says, action taken during any meeting that is not open or has not been properly noticed could, if challenged, be declared null and void. That's the one thing in this pamphlet that I personally disagree with. Through my research with other states, Nebraska, Iowa, Arkansas, Texas, so on and so forth, if there are specific statutes that say if you take action in violation of open meetings and there's like a 30-day filing window where you can take that to court, then that action is can be deemed null and void by declaratory action in a court. We don't have that in our 125 code, so I take a little issue with that. So I just wanted to clear that up for you folks. Does anyone have any questions about that part? No. All right. How are issues referred to the Open Meetings Commission? Alleged jurors essentially file their complaint with the state's attorney's office, who will assign an investigator, whether it's a sheriff's office deputy, or in our office we have our own investigator, Steve Neville, who would do the investigation, where they essentially do interviews, look at the meetings, look at the video, see if there has been an open meetings violation, and ultimately when that investigation comes back into my office, I look through the investigative file and write a letter essentially finding merit or no merit that we send to the Attorney General's office for either statistical purpose if we find no merit, or scheduling for Open Meetings Commission hearing if I do find a violation. Now, if there is, let's use the hypothetical, let's say the Pennington County Commission gets an allegation for an open meetings violation, we cannot, of course, investigate that, so we would refer that out to someone else, Meade County, Lawrence County, Custer County, whatever it could be. So any questions about that process at all? Okay. Scroll to the top. Yep. What does the term sovereign power mean? That's a great question. The open meetings laws do not define this term, but it generally means the power to levy taxes, impose penalties, make special assessments, create ordinances, abate nuisances, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Things that you folks commonly do in your capacity as the commission. It is a little bit odd that there's no clear definition of sovereign power, but if it smells like it, it probably is it. May agenda items be considered if they are added less than 24 hours before a meeting? Well, we know that the notice must be posted at least 24 hours of the meeting, and so typically the answer is no. However, if we need a special meeting to, have something that we otherwise didn't need, you meet on a Tuesday, you need something to be heard ASAP on a Wednesday, hold another special meeting and go on and comply with the notice requirements as best as possible. Go to the next page if I could, Jordan, thank you. Are email discussions meetings for purposes of the open meetings laws? Let's go to the definition of an official meeting. SDCL 125-12-1 specifically includes meetings conducted by electronic means, including electronic mail, instant messaging, social media, text message, or virtual meeting platform. Now, essentially, it's a quorum of a public body that discusses official meeting of that body via electronic means is conducting an official meeting. So we want to stay away from electronic discussions of any actionable information or topics that could make its way on the podium for you folks. However, electronic communications made solely for scheduling purposes do not fall within the definition of an official meeting. Now, what records must be available to the public in conjunction with the meetings? 125 1.4 requires state boards, commissions, or departments to make available meeting material available on boardsandcommissions.sd.gov, and 127 1.16 requires that any other public body must post meeting material on the public body's website or make those materials available to the public at least 24 hours prior to the hearing or when made available to the members of the public body, whichever is later. And additionally, 127 1.17 requires that draft minutes of public meetings must be made available to the public at the principal place of business for the public body within 10 business days after the meeting. Additionally, the pamphlet goes on to discuss a little bit more of 127, which is the FOIA laws, and we can get into a little bit if you want, but I think you generally get the idea behind this question that they're talking about here.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Dur.
I do have a question related, going back to the correspondence
Yes.
digital. So if, hypothetical,
Sure.
okay, so a department head sends an email to the board regarding something that will be discussed and/or is on the agenda, but they do a blind copy
Yeah.
and no one responds, is that a violation?
You know, I think the conservative approach would be that it would be, but I think that's also one of the reasons why we have Jordan here, is to be kind of the liaison of the commission and also coordinate the, you know, transferring of those documents to you. Now, here's a good rule of thumb. I mean, I like the rule of twos. This is kind of just something that I make up. You know, if it's not a quorum if it's more, or if it's three or more, or it is, excuse me, it's a quorum if it's three or more people, so you may as well keep all correspondence in the rule of twos. 2 commissioners to everything, email correspondence. That way you don't have a quorum, and that way you can still transfer the information amongst yourselves with 2 of you having the information needed to discuss. We really just don't want to get in a situation, other than scheduling purposes, where email correspondence is occurring between all 5 of you, other than for scheduling. Does that answer your question, Commissioner?
Well, I'm going to take it a step further. So
Sure.
when you say by twos, so let's say we get an email from somebody regarding something that requires a board action, and it goes to 2 of us, and then in a separate email it goes to 2 more, and then a third email it goes to 1. Is that kosher?
I think that is kosher, because you're not all on the same, you know, dialogue thread with each other, essentially. That's not the meeting, you know, it's a game of telephone, really. All right. Let's call it what it is. And I think telephone's fine. What we don't want is all of you emailing about me all together at the same time, because that might be an official meeting that you could get dinged for in the open meetings.
Well, what if we email about you and talk about you, but we don't put it on the agenda?
Well,
Okay.
that's fair enough.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Turning to
Tyler, I got a question for you.
Sure.
I'll give you an example. When I years ago, when I first got on the city council, and we'd have a meeting at the commission, and there was 10 of us, and an agenda item would come up, and like a lot of times there was no discussion, and all of a sudden everybody'd vote, and I couldn't figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
Come to my soon caught on at the fact that these guys were instant messaging each other at the dais, or they were texting each other at the dais.
Yeah.
But none of the public was aware of any of the conversation.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so at that point, I mean, what do you say about electronics on the dais? I mean, if I'm having a conversation with, say, Commissioner Hadcock or something on the dais here, we don't have any public discussion, but all of a sudden we just make a decision. I mean, should that phone record be available to the public?
You know, that's a great question.
If you can't answer it right now, just
Yeah.
to look into it, because my concern goes back to Commissioner Durr and the fact that the biggest thing is best practice would say don't make decisions. I mean,
Right.
really, I mean, that's what they're trying to tell you to do, is not make a decision, not have an ex parte communication, not have a decision made without having a public discussion. That's why we're trying to be transparent, so. You know.
Yeah, let me chew on that a little bit, and I'll get back to you on that one, Commissioner. That's an interesting hypothetical. You know,
Because I know the state legislature uses it, and it's frustrating. If you watch
Yeah.
them, all of a sudden they're making decisions, and nobody even knew what they talked about, and they think that's perfectly fine, and
yeah,
yeah. I mean,
I have a follow-up comment if I can.
Yeah, Commissioner,
Okay,
go
you
ahead.
brought up the legislature.
sure.
So the open meeting stuff is presented by the legislature, you know, they set the laws. Then flip that around, why is the legislature allowed to go in and caucus behind closed doors?
Ooh, that's a really interesting question. I don't know. Maybe Commissioner Drews, do you have any?
Not getting into that one.
he hangs out there in Pier. We got to watch out. We make sure he takes a shower.
I don't know.
before he comes back.
I'll think about both those and get back to you. Actually, that's
Chair.
an interesting question.
Commissioner Hadcock.
One up on that with Commissioner Weifenbach. So they weren't only using their phones, they were typing on their computers back and
Yeah.
forth to each other. So how we solved the issue too is we had a screen, if you remember Commissioner Weifenbach, and anything they were typing to each other had to be transparent to the public.
Oh, interesting.
So that ended up going, 10-0. because a couple of us were watching people type and talk back and forth to each other
Yeah.
on votes. So Commissioner Weifenbach is right. They were typing on their phones. If you watch the old meetings, people were doing this the whole time, and we couldn't figure out what they were doing until I watched, and Commissioner Weifenbach and a couple of us watched people typing and read what they put on their paper. So, yeah, so anything that you are typing, or that's why with the commission here, when they were using their phones and stuff, I said, you might not be doing anything wrong, but it looks bad to the public when you're typing
Yeah.
on your phone, even if it's for emergency or just, I don't know, if you have to say, I have to make this call or I have to type this, because it doesn't look transparent at all when you're typing and two people picking up their phones on the dais. So
Right, yeah, the appearance
that or
definitely
computer
doesn't look
typing.
great, sure. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I've never really thought of that, but luckily, I don't think that's common practice for this commission at least.
It's not.
So,
Mr. Chair,
yeah.
Not at all. Commissioner.
couple
Russ.
questions. I'll be guilty on the phone because my phone's got a calculator and I use numbers all the time. I'll be doing it later today as well. Let's say I want to send all four other commissioners some type of a message. I send it to Jordan, our office manager, and I simply ask him to send it on to the other four. I'm essentially doing the same thing, but I'm going through Jordan.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. I think the real key is, is Jordan, how is he dispersing that information? Is it a situation where all four of the other commissioners can respond and engage in a dialogue from there? That is something I would caution against. But if he's merely the conduit to relay the information that you're providing, then I think that's a great way to move forward.
And that's what we've been doing. So I
Great.
mean, just to try to keep it as transparent as possible, not making any decisions, just trying to, if something comes to my attention and they have to know.
Right.
And that's why we're trying to establish Jordan as that position to.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Sometimes for sensitive information, then you wouldn't do that in that situation. But if you go out and look at a property, you just want
Yep.
the other commissioners to know what you did. I mean.
Yeah,
to me,
absolutely. And I mean, you're also
That's being transparent.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what we want. You're also free to reach directly, specifically to each commissioner, but you don't want to create a group chat where you're discussing, hey, I went to XYZ's property, these are the photos I took, I think I'm going to vote this on this variance. That's what we really want to avoid. So either way, I think it's totally fine. Just want to avoid a quorum chat.
Tyler,
let's call it.
when that example that you just draw, would that be more of an ex parte communication?
Well, it certainly could. Well, ex parte really is,
Say we were deciding on the use of somebody's property and then
Yeah.
we went there and then discussed it with all.
yeah,
the other
I mean, I
people.
think what you want to go away from this is what I'm going to decide versus this is what I saw.
Yeah.
I think those are two very different things, and I think, the latter is really what we should be shooting for rather than, this is what I saw and this is why I'm voting because of this. So I think, and I mean, I know Commissioner Roskineck's been great with this, where he goes to people's properties and then posts those pictures to an agenda later, 2 weeks, 4 weeks later.
And that's fair game, right?
Yeah.
Because he's making that available to
the public.
everybody else.
Yep.
Saying, I went there, here's what I saw.
Yep, exactly.
One more suggestion, that this is a good presentation you're doing today, but I think you ought to do it the first meeting of the year so that everybody's on the same page, because a new commissioner comes on, they don't need this information 6 months into it. They need to start out right and everybody be on the same page.
Yep, that's exactly our plan moving forward. Jordan
Tyler,
and
I
had
think
already talked
I
about
can
that.
answer that. I've been in discussion with Jordan. That's on our agenda, Ron, is to make sure that we have an orientation for new commissioners so they don't get themselves in a position. And so when they come in, we're going to spend some time with them, and this is probably the one that'll get them in the most trouble, either this or ex parte or something that.
Yeah.
And
Chair.
then just Robert's Rules of Orders and all that stuff. It's a great
Chair.
idea, so.
So
But Commissioner
Tyler-
Hadcock, you have the floor.
Sorry. So, why did you bring the annual review up of open meetings? People wanted to review it and decide and understand it better, I guess?
Yeah, it's it's the new statute that got tacked on to the end of the Open Meetings Code, where it says that we have to annually review this brochure every year and, what do they call it, and any other material pertaining to the open meetings laws of the state provided by the Attorney General. This was the only thing specifically provided by and endorsed by the Attorney General's office, so we have to go through this every year. This last year was a little bit wonky because the law didn't go into effect until early July, and And so there were some public bodies that did it immediately after it went into effect. Some waited until the first of the year. Some waited until, well, we're doing it now. So we weren't really on a exact timeline for that annual requirement. But after discussion with Jordan, we had decided that this will be the first or second meeting in January moving forward from here out.
And Tyler, I appreciate that. We already know from open meeting violations that had happened in Pennington County from 3 other commissioners, from personnel and wages in the past. For me, public participation and transparency is huge. And when you go behind the scenes and you do wages, and in that case, excessive wages up to $12,647,000, and then the public has no idea, it's important to the public for public participation. When you do wages, when you do anything, for me, it's, I get the electronics and everything, but since I've been in politics, the worst I've seen is the open meeting violations in executive sessions, speaking about or doing things so the public have no participation or transparency, and then coming out later and saying, you know, what happened to the money? How did they absorb that? How did they do this? So I'm glad we're making this a very important issue for Pennington County. There was 2 warrants of violation from the Attorney General for that reason, and unfortunately 2 commissioners had to bring that forward to make that apparent and transparent for public participation at that point.
Right.
So for you doing this and the state's attorney making this a priority and then bringing forward the new rules, for me, and I think any commissioner up here, is very important.
Great, thanks, Commissioner. And while we're on the basis of wages, we may as well touch on that too. So the decision that came back from that open meetings violation was that when you go into executive session for, what was it, qualification, personnel, character, things of that nature, essentially anything goes except for discussion of wages, where that needs to be done on the public platform, essentially. So, you know, you can talk about whether someone's doing a great job, they're doing bad, whatever it may be, but when it comes to whether you're going to raise their wages or not, you have to come out of executive session and then make that motion from there, because in the eyes of the Open Meeting Commission, the public deserves transparency about how their money's spent in association with a specific individual.
And I appreciate that, Tyler. We tried to get training to commissioners for us, because when we kept going back, we kept saying, you can't do this. You can't do wage comparables, market analysis behind the scenes. And again, it took, what, a couple years?
Yeah.
And at that point, hopefully, we've understood. We are reviewing it, and we're trying to make a difference for the future. But unfortunately, that caused some major deficit in some other areas by doing open and violating open meeting laws on wages. So again, for transparency and public participation, the department heads, the employees, anybody that's bringing things up, I think it's good, and it was suggested before, that they understand that or be sent those same rules and regulations that this board is. Because you already know, with the state's attorney's office, they were in the back with us doing the same thing. And that violation came with the state's attorney's office in the back during those open meeting violations. So again, I respect and I appreciate state's attorney's office bringing this forward, because it's important to them as well that we move forward in a positive way. Thank you.
Absolutely, thanks,
Mr.
Commissioner.
Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner
And
Ross.
I agree with what Commissioner Hadcock said. I think the bottom line is you got to look at it intent. If these folks do this stuff and they don't intentionally do it, they just don't have the wherewithal to understand that they're not supposed to do that. That's where it's really important that you have these discussions at the very first, because if you do that, then something happens midterm. They can't sit there and say, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And we probably wouldn't have all these open meeting laws or concerns. So to me, intent is and I might be guilty of that. Was I intentionally? No, just because I didn't know exactly what I was doing. So I appreciate today's.
I think the whole conversation went full circle, how I opened the conversation with the professionalism that the state's attorney's office is providing us today with Tyler, and moving forward, that he thoroughly understands the law. He's willing to keep us straight on the record about what's right, what's wrong, and we appreciate that. And one of the things that I think that wasn't brought up in here is about conducting a vote in executive session.
Yeah.
So if you want to cover that a little bit,
Sure.
we'd appreciate that.
I mean, the bottom line is to come out of executive session and make your motion. I mean, you know, when we're in executive, you know, let's use pending litigation as an example. When we're discussing about, you know, a matter that we're potentially wanting to settle or not, or whatever it could be, you know, making the motion to direct, you know, legal counsel to do XYZ task is really the way to move, because the public still, even though the discussions are behind closed doors, the action should still be transparent. I think is the good rule of thumb. So.
That's the way we've done it, and that's the way we'll continue to do it, so.
All right,
Do you
well,
want to finish up, Tyler?
Yeah, we got two more, so we're just about done. Requirements applying to task forces, committees, and working groups. This is a weird one. So task forces and committees that exercise sovereign power and are created by statute, ordinance, or proclamation are required to comply with the open meetings laws, 125.12 subsection 1. Task forces, committees, and working groups that are not created by statute, ordinance, or proclamation or are advisory only may not be subject to the open meeting laws, but are encouraged to comply to the extent possible when the public matters are discussed. I mean, it goes back to kind of what I said earlier. If it smells like it's a public body, it probably is. But a lot of these groups, you know, are really just, you know, there for a limited basis and really don't have any sovereign power, which is what triggers that, you know, open meetings requirement. And so for good rule of thumb, most probably not, but we got to take it by a case-by-case basis.
So Tyler, when you talk, just to revisit sovereign power a little bit,
Yeah.
you're talking about this body's ability to make a decision that affects the public
Right.
in general, where
Yeah.
if we appoint a task force, they're just a recommending body, they're not going to really make a decision. Is that,
Right.
would that be fair?
Yep, exactly. You know, taxing is probably the biggest sovereign power there is. You know, that's a taxing. You know, spending money, I think, is just, you know, a really good rule of thumb that you're more likely to be a sovereign power holding entity rather than not. So, but like I said, you know, we'll take it as a case-by-case basis and make a determination if the laws need to be followed from there.
Planning commission would be a sovereign power.
Well, yeah, Planning Commission does go through the open meetings purview because they do make official actions regarding CUPs, things of that nature. Even though they are an advisory board to you, when an ordinance comes up, they're still required to follow the open meetings laws. We get agendas, there's a packet, we still have open, you know, public comment for that, all of that, so.
Commissioner Durr, you moved up to the
Yeah.
mic.
So then, based on that, do you give this same presentation to the Planning Commission?
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll let you finish, Tyler. I
Yep,
keep
we got
interrupting you.
one last one, and it's the easiest one. Are public bodies required to review the open meeting laws? Yes. So,
I
Mr.
think it's a
Chair.
good practice anyway, so, but Commissioner Roskinek, you have
So
the
there was
floor.
some discussion today relative to Jordan doing the agenda, and before that agenda becomes advertised, that at least one commissioner should be involved in this be vetted. Is any opinion on that?
I mean, I think by way of open that doesn't really have any, you know, pertinency to the open meetings laws itself, but it may be worth a discussion about our policy and how things get on the agenda moving forward. From my understanding of those two specific scenarios is they were not deemed to be actionable by you, so that's why they were left off of the agenda, because you were essentially making an agenda topic for things that you could not act on, or frankly was not even informational, so that's why they were left off. But I think, you know, based off this morning, a review of how that agenda making policy looks is probably warranted.
Chair.
Commissioner Hadcock.
So Tyler, since you've been with us, we've done well with your advice and what you've been doing, and I appreciate that, like Commissioner Weifenbach has said, because you've kept us on task. And that's been pretty positive, and it's
Thank you.
easier to function when you have more of an understanding and we ask lots of questions and then you go research it to make sure that you're right and we might have an issue. So thank you for all you've done for us.
Thank you,
It's
Commissioner.
been
I
huge
appreciate that.
and you know I like information and I like to know why the information. So I appreciate all your research that you've done, not only for open meetings, but the other areas that we always have concerns with.
Great, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. The last thing I'll leave you on to is that the back of this packet is just the list of statutes. If any of you have any questions about them, we've gone through all of the, well, it's actually not the entire code, it's all the ones that they reference in here. If you have any questions about the specific statutes, don't hesitate to reach out. thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tyler, and we appreciate the well put together. I'm sure your boss is pretty proud of you. She's back there smiling.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I'd move to acknowledge the annual review of open meetings laws and material pursuant to SDCL 1-25-13.
we have a motion from Drews and a second by Hadcock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think it is important that we did acknowledge that too, Gary. Thank you for, that way we're on the record of having met the requirements set forth by the legislature, even though they don't abide by it. So, but appreciate that. We'll move on to item number 9, and this is items from Buildings and Grounds Director, Mr. Davis, right?
Quick question, Mr. Chair.
I missed something. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
We are after 9:30, which is when we have our typical hearing scheduled for planning and zoning. Do we
Oh.
want to move that up on the agenda, or do we want to continue with the same order that
I
you've got
think
right
it would
now?
be nice to maybe move it up on the agenda, because there's, I enter one thing on there that's gonna be continued or something, and just to make sure, so. So that drops down to which item? I thought it was 10:30 that we did.
Number 11.
Number 11? Oh, 9:30, yeah, you're right, okay. Okay, so is everybody okay with that, moving that up? So if we move to item 11, so we'd make it we need to go into the, I mean, agenda, regular items, do we need to?
Nope,
We could just start at item number 11, so we'll move to Miss Brittany, item 11.
Good morning, Commissioners. Brittany Hand, Planning Director. Just wait for this PowerPoint to come up. So item 11A is vacation of plat, COVPL 26-0001 for Kenneth Davis. Ron Davis is the agent, and is to vacate a portion of right-of-way along Log Porch Road. This property is along Highway 44 and Log Porch Road. When this property was platted in 1992, it required dedication of additional right-of-way, and that was this portion right here. When they dedicated that additional right-of-way, the well for Lot G was located within that dedication. So Mr. Davis came forward asking if we could vacate that portion so his well would remain on his property. Log Porch Road, this is a picture of Log Porch Road from last week. This road was actually incorporated into the Morse Place Road District, and I did speak with that road district, and they are in agreement that vacation is appropriate, as they do not have an intention to widen that road. It's adequate for their use and for their budgetary allotments, and it is a decent road, and it's been like that. They did add one more lot that was right here that you can see some construction on, but for the most part, this road has been consistently this way for several years. So Planning Commission did approve the vacation of plat with one condition, and staff is recommending that as well.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to move approval. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to item 11B, please.
So item 11B is public hearing of comprehensive plan amendment COCA 26-0001, approval by resolution for Pennington County to amend the existing comprehensive plan view to 2040, section 3, land use element. So this item is on the agenda because previously when we had discussed this, there was a motion to have it on this agenda for the 17th. During that time, we had to reallocate a different newspaper at the first meeting in January. With that allocation of the newspaper, it changed our advertising requirements. So this was actually advertised for the February 23rd, 2026 Planning Commission meeting and the March 3rd, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting. So both items B and C will be continued to the March 3rd, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting, and just for reference, it will be on the February 23rd Planning Commission meeting.
So we have a motion from Hadcock and second by Ross Connect.
I just have a question.
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
Brittany.
Yep.
So Brittany, can you just bring everybody up to speed? When we get to the point that we approve this, what are we approving? It's my understanding that if a solar plant wants to come into Pennington County, they're going to have to find a piece of land that's zoned heavy industrial. Is that?
So this is just one portion of that. So this is the comprehensive plan, so this is the guide. And in that documentation, it would be that this board, if it was approved, that they would like to see those types of uses in heavy industrial. Now, the ordinance amendment is actually what would be the requirement for it to be. So it's two parts. So the comprehensive plan needs to be changed, and then the ordinance amendment would need to be made.
But you need the basically you need that comprehensive plan to align with the proposed ordinance.
Well, the ordinance should align with the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, vice versa.
Correct.
So, and I think we've discussed this, and I talked to you earlier, ag land, and I think that's the heart of the matter. There's roughly 1 million acres of ag land between Rapid City and the Pennington County line towards Wall.
It's about countywide. There is some in the hills area, but yes.
A million acres, and discussion is that you don't want to screw up the number one industry in the state of South Dakota, which is ag. So when they measure that, is it based on the amount of ag land that's in the state of South Dakota, or are you looking at the amount of revenue generated by ag land in the state of South Dakota?
I can't answer that question. I apologize.
But I've said this before, I think if we go this route, that we're definitely over-regulation.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
it's a continued item, and I don't think we should get into the merits of this and basically have a public hearing on this without the public being noticed, because they were told it would not
Okay,
be
and
discussed
that's
until
fair
March
enough.
3rd.
Okay, that's fair, yeah.
I just want to point out a article that I read. South Dakota regulators approved wind farm that will be the largest in the state. So that wasn't done by the county, that was done by the PUC. So that's all I got to say.
I just want to make one comment about the comprehensive plan, because there's been a lot going on about the comprehensive plan. And I think the one thing that the commissioners and everybody needs to know, and this will be part of the, I think, the orientation process when we talk about the comprehensive plan, people buy land in the community based upon the comprehensive plan, how it's zoned, all that stuff. So making sure that we align with the goals of the community. I mean, really, it's not a decision that we make in a vacuum or a bubble or whatever. It's like, if I'm living in an area that's zoned a specific residential, and then to come in and then change it to something that is irrelevant to that type of zoning, then you're causing a major ripple effect of what's happening. So having the comprehensive plan in place with rules that make sense, and then all of a sudden you add in other items. You add in like data centers, you add in what they call these solar farms at large capacities and stuff. If you hadn't had a chance to update your comprehensive plan, you're going to get caught off guard, and that's going to allow opportunity for people to sneak under the radar, to maybe change the whole environment of what your comprehensive plan is set out to be. I would encourage everybody in the community to read the comprehensive plan, and read it well, and read it how it states what our plan is for the county. And if that's to be changed, that will be changed by the community. I mean, through their openness, public meetings, whatever it takes to have meetings to talk about how they see the public, because you get in a lot of discussions about property rights and stuff. Well, people buy property based upon zonings. They buy them on, if I'm in an agricultural community, like say the state of South Dakota, and I know agriculture is the number one driver of the economy in this, and it's for basically the lifestyle that people live here. If I go to Denver, Colorado, I'm going to live an urban lifestyle. If I come to Rapid City, South Dakota, and the surrounding area outside of Rapid City is going to be more of a ag-style rural community where they allow, we had the conversations about pigs, horses, that type of stuff. So as long as we're not treading on each other's property rights or whatever, that's how that happens. But the comprehensive plan cannot be overstated. I think in the past, at least when I was on the city council for sure also, they took that comprehensive plan with a grain of salt, and it caused a lot of problems. And then the county commission or the city council would make decisions based upon a whim and a will, instead of going to the comprehensive plan saying, does this make sense? Even though, people want to argue the property rights are all of a community effort together. So by taking the time to really read and understand our comprehensive plan, I think it's been put in place pretty well in the county here. I don't see that at the city as well. I think they're trying to work on that, understanding that that's a roadmap. Telling people if you want to buy land, you want to do something in that community, here's what you can expect to that certain level. And if you want to come in and change it, there better be a big reason to change it. So leaving that, I think it's important that we get this comprehensive plan, but we spend the time it takes to thoroughly understand it when we're making changes.
So, Mr. Chair, I just want to conclude. The number 2 industry in the state of South Dakota is tourism. And the majority of that tourism happens within the confines of the Black Hills National Forest. And mining is allowed in the Black Hills National Forest. So my question is, can you actually have a mine on land that's used for ag? And I believe the answer is yes.
Yes, with a conditional use permit.
Right, and that, I think that's where the folks that were wanting to go with the solar fields or solar plants. So I'm just saying, let's be consistent and be fair to both sides.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner.
I'm going to second. I'm not sure you have a second to Commissioner Hadcock's
Yeah, I
motion.
have, first by Hadcock, second by Durr. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. We're going to move this item on, and then
And then item C, I need a motion for that one as well.
So move. Continue
motion to
Second.
continue and a second.
COCA 26002 to March 3rd, 2026 Board of Commissioner meeting due to advertising.
A motion by Durr and second by Roskinick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, that gets us to the planning back. Now we're going to go back to items from building and grounds, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Davis? We kind of skipped around for the guy over there with the camera and Frank. We skipped around. You understood that part? Thank you. Mr. Davis, you have the floor, sir, for item number 9.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. Davis Purcell, Director of Buildings and Grounds. So this item, we're looking to get a bid award for the 130 Kansas City Street project, which is our old county administration building downtown. I attached a memo as well as the bid tab, and you can see where those numbers came in at. I can read through some of this for you. The memo can get a little confusing just because of the reimbursement we're looking at getting from the city for their portion. And then there is also an area in the dispatch department that is.
Is that just this piece under Seco Construction right here? If you want to buzz through it real quick, and then these guys got questions, they can fire away?
Sure.
Okay.
So, yeah, anyways, you can see where the bid tab came back at. Seco had the low bid with 2.69 million. And then with all the alternates, it came to 2.9 roughly $1 million. And then there's some other related items. There's some HVAC controls that need upgraded. There's camera and access control, some IT infrastructure, obviously moving and relocation costs, and then FF&E, which is your desks and other items to outfit the offices. We are utilizing as much as the existing furniture as we can in that building. But again, FF&E is a pretty high cost item for projects like this. We also, when we're looking at the state bid sort of breakdown of desks and things like that, we usually just go mid-grade. It's not low, it's not high, it's right in the middle. But still, those numbers come in fairly high. Just to break down something real quick here, you can see what the city portion is there. They had a total of, if I can find that number, $202,350. That was for the build out of the records department in that building, which is RCPD employees. And then on top of that was roughly $47,000 of FF&E. So that's where that $202,000 number came from. I sent that to the sheriff, and then he had discussions with the city from there, and they said they would pay 70% of that. And then for the dispatch area, which is $242,450, when I had talks with Kevin Carley throughout this entire project, they have funded a lot of capital project costs in their department through their 911 fund, and So he had recommended that we could do that as well if the commission wants to. So once you get to the totals down in the motion, they don't necessarily reflect the total costs. They do when you read them all out, but the 4.1 million that I'm asking for from the bond fund does not include the 911 dispatch amount, even though it's all it's all part of the same project. So I will stand for any questions.
Commissioner Davis, Director Mr. Davis, could you tell us what your original thought price was on this?
Say that one more time.
What you originally thought this was gonna estimate?
We were between 2 and 3 million initially, and then as we started going through all the concepts and everything, it was a little bit heavier than we had expected. But once I came back with my last memo, we were right at 2.9 million is actually what we thought. And so we were really close with that. I have obviously added in some contingency as well, which is for change orders or other things that come up. As much as we don't, like change orders, the fact of the matter is when it's a remodel and you get into areas that you just don't know what you might find, there's always some additional costs in projects like these. So, yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Roskinek, sir, you have the floor.
So, CEQA's $3,332,000, that was their estimate. Then there's other project cost at $1,263,960. So that brings us to a total of $4,596,000, or 144 square foot.
I didn't catch that first number that you said. I think you said something along 3
Just
million.
a bid by CEQA.
Their entire bid, if you look at the bid tab, we can pull that up. I think it's the other document. You can see what their base bid is, and then you'll see all of the alternates came in at 2.9 million. It's that top one right there. So that's what the entirety of the construction contract would be for. And then we have the owner held contingency, and then we have all those other additional costs. But yes, you are correct. Without the dispatch portion included in the bond,
Yeah, I was just trying to see.
It's roughly 4.5, correct.
And that's
Yes.
why I asked to put everything on a per square foot basis so you can really understand. So if you take $144 a square foot for the breakdown on the previous slide, and then if I'm just looking at what might be the market value of that property, so is that the realistic numbers? Well, then I took the side area that building's located on, and I took out the parking for the evidence center, and I come up with 82,764 square feet of side area at $20 a square foot, which I can support that. So if you take the contribution to the land, you add it to the $4,596,000, you come up with $195 a square foot. And I think our discussion was if you had to go out and build, if we didn't move into that building, we opted, let's just go buy a piece of land and build a building from scratch. You're at 450 a square foot, just so that the taxpayers know that this is really a way to go, this particular direction. And if you look at this building, we bought it for $92 a square foot, 10 acres and a 76,000 square foot building. And I believe we put $100 a square foot to make it look like it is today. So it's $192 a square foot, or awful close to it. So in my mind, if you take that $200 a square foot and move it over to the admin building, and that would be with land, that's about $200 a square foot. So to me, it's a good number.
It is, and it's. I mean, things in the market are actually looking a little better than they have in past. I mean, even if you just look at the bid tab breakdown, we had 5 different companies within $120,000 of each other on a $3 million bid, which is pretty exceptional. So things are starting to come back to reality around here, even though it's still pretty high. But yeah, I mean, to go back on the square foot price, if you just looked at the construction contract of 2.937, we're roughly sitting at $93 a square foot, or 98, somewhere in there, and then all in you're at 144. So yeah, I'd say in this day and age, that's a pretty good number to be looking at when you're looking at doing a remodel of this size. So.
Here.
Commissioner Hadcock.
You know what's crazy? Has been through the buildings, through some of these things, and this is pretty crazy what the end result became because we bought a building across the street, a bank, for 40,000 square feet, or 40,000 square feet for 4.3 million, and we only needed 20,000 extra space for the 2 departments that were over there. I don't know if anybody knew this, but that's admin, and Davis can verify that. It was supposed to cost us 18 million for this old administration building to be remodeled. It's only 4.4 at the most just to do what we have to do now. I don't know where the 18 million ever came from, let alone if you look at it, and it was quoted that the public defender's office and B&G have enough room except for the storage for B&G to last them for the next 20 years. And we were going to spend $18 million for a remodel on this building that cost us 4.3, maybe 5 at the most. We didn't have the money to buy the bank, and we also had the space. It's the craziest thing to see as a commissioner going through this process and watching this for the last 5 years. And now people understand why we didn't need the bank. Mr. Davis has done his due diligence by finding all the numbers, and also with the new administration, and following through and following through with everything this new commission has done. So I can't say enough about the B&G department. All the information that's factual and straightforward at this point has made a huge difference for the taxpayers, if you think about it, because that is a savings of $14 million on buildings. That's huge. So I'm in agreement with this remodel. I have been in agreement because, again, if you don't have the money, if you're causing a deficit buying buildings that you can't afford, this is pretty crazy how this came out, and it was all meant to be, I see, and it also is the professionals of the people and that B&G department that did their due diligence and asked many questions and many things to get where we are today. So I can't thank you enough, Mr. Davis, and I'm on board with this, have been on board with this, and I don't know how much work this took, and I'm pretty sure it took you about a year at this point to get where you are today, to get all those numbers. But again, you went from 18 million to 4.5 million. That's pretty amazing. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Ross, can I start? You have the floor.
just to go back, I believe it was 4 or 5 years ago when we had a former administration, we had a former building and grounds director, and the commission voted 5-0 to hire a firm to come in and do a needs assessment. And I believe that needs assessment was $70,000, $80,000, this ballpark. What that needs assessment did is it told us as commissioners at the time where we needed to be looking at going 15 years into the future. That was a roadmap that we were supposed to use. And I think I'd only had 1 or 2 years under my belt, and we did our hardest to try to sit there and follow that roadmap. And in that roadmap told us that we were somewhere between 100 and 150,000 square feet short of being where we need to be 15 years down the road. So, that needs assessment is out there, and if people want to sit there and go back and read it, they can read it. But this is what we had to live with, just trying to do the best that we could for the county, following the needs assessment and their roadmap.
Chair.
Commissioner Hack, I want to say something just on the end of the conversation, but basically, this is the testament of having some wisdom and some experience in these areas and bringing in good people. I think that Director Davis has done a super job. We honored him with, increasing his salary a short time ago, understanding that his ability to do these needs assessments. And I'll have to agree that when you go to an outside agency, when you got people in your community, like we witnessed earlier with Tyler, we're witnessing it now with Davis, the people that we put in these positions to be able to give us the information. We witnessed it with Jordan. We got the budget coming up, and it's really about the people that are in place. And it's hard when you get outside agencies telling you what you want to hear. They get on AI or Google and they give you information. They don't really know they don't know anything about your buildings. I think that this commission here has made some good decisions moving forward with Director Davis, getting this all under control, getting us into a position that we have information at our fingertips that we otherwise wouldn't have had. Pie charts, graphs, but with real information, not bogus information that we paid somebody to go out and gather and come back with our needs of 450 square foot per person. That's what that needs assessment came back, when the reality is it should be about half that. So we're in that position now. So we need to celebrate that and celebrate the fact that, when we leave here as individual commissioners, that we have good people here in place that are making solid decisions and giving the commissioners going forward solid information to make good decisions, and this is one of them. So appreciate that. But Commissioner Hadcock, you have the floor.
Thank you, and I appreciated the needs assessment, but it didn't make sense, because common sense was not each employee needed 450 square feet. So you also have to take with a grain of salt what you're reading on a piece of paper, and was brought over and over again, and if you figure this out, this building's for the next 50 years. So with AI and everything else coming through, and we were talking about that, you might not even need that much square feet for the future because of what's happening with AI and technology, and we had said that as well. So when you have a plan, it's great. If you can afford that plan and those needs, it's perfect, right? But you also find out later that that plan maybe had some flaws, and those things were being brought up, and it still moved forward. So you have to be able, just because it sounds like a good deal and you can't afford it, doesn't mean you go buy it. Because you gotta, and I'll keep saying it, it's on the backs of your taxpayers, and those budgets go up, you already know, their taxes go up. So every dollar counts when you're looking at it, whether it be wages, whether it be buildings, and in this case, I can respect that we had the needs, but we also had to look at the future and the money we had to be able to spend on those needs. So at this point, those needs have been not even downsized. They have been reviewed a lot more extensively, and now we're here today with a positive outcome from that, from having a B&G that also understood from being working with the city and other things, what needs and wants are two different things. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion? Yep, thank you. My motion would be to award the bid and construction contract for the prior Pennington County Administration Building renovation located at 130 Kansas City Street to Sequel Construction, the lowest responsive and responsible bidder, and the total construction contract amount of $2,937,250, which includes the base bid of $2,690,000, and alternate number 1 through number 4, $247,250, and to authorize the Director of Building and Grounds to execute all AIA and associated contracts necessary to complete the project.
There's more.
Yeah, there's more.
A motion from Ross Connect.
Further, to approve the owner-held construction contingency in the amount of not to exceed $188,300. Further, to authorize expenditures from the Capital Projects 303 bond fund for the project in the total amount not to exceed $4,147,060, inclusive of construction, owner direct, and non-construction components. Further, to acknowledge that alternate number 3, Records Department, RCPD space includes a City of Rapid City cost share and reimbursement of $141,645. And further, to acknowledge that $242,450 related to 911 dispatch scope is anticipated to be funded separately through the restricted 911 fund and excluded from the bond funding. Total bond fund as of 2026, $30,230,370.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Roskinek, second by Commissioner Hadcock. All in favor?
Mr. Chair?
Yep, go ahead,
Yeah.
Commissioner Durr. Yep.
Yeah, I have some discussion.
Sure. Yep.
So could you explain the dispatch, what the scope of work is there?
So it's there's a little bit of remodel work happening there. We're expanding the dispatch room itself to allow for more call stations. There's quite a bit of electrical work in there. We are also relocating their break room into their current conference room. And then there's some unfinished space on that first level of first floor that is part of dispatch's area that we are finishing out with an office, a quiet room, and a conference room, and then some other miscellaneous items. But yeah, the dispatch expansion, the dispatch floor expansion itself is the most work in that area. So.
All right. And Commissioner Hadcock brought up the 18 million, and I'd heard that number floated around before, but I believe anyway that number incorporated the entire law enforcement moving out of the public safety building. And so the PD was going to move in its entirety, as I believe anyway in that project was going to be law enforcement would move into the Justice Center. Was that part of that 18 million?
Correct. It was Sheriff's Office and RCPD that would occupy the majority of that facility.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, Mr. Chair, I've got a question for our auditor related to this, if we could call her up.
Yep, Sabrina?
So as we look at the, PD moving into the building, which was originally kind of not anticipated when they said they were not going to put money into the project to move in. And I've been asking about, the building and utilization and footprint that we have. And Davis gave me some information about a month ago that I've not had time to go through it all. I did have a conversation related to the bond dollars. And Sabrina, if you could just brief the board about how the Rapid City is reimbursing us if these reconstruction projects or the building has been used with bond dollars.
Sabrina Green, Pennington County Auditor. So currently, when I did the research of our previous bonds that the City of Rapid City does, they pay a portion of our bond payment. We bill them yearly. I don't know the percentage of it, but they pay it for the public safety building, the evidence building, and the parking garage. So it is a yearly bill that we bill them for a portion of our bond payment.
And that's based on utilization?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So would that increase that on this reimbursement, or would they just write us a check?
Say that one more time. What was the question?
So they're reimbursing you $140,000 or something like that? Is they going to increase that payment, or are they going to just reimburse the whole entire? Or maybe it's a question you have to look into if you can't answer.
That would have to be something we'd have to look into, whether this is just more of them reimbursing us up front of a cost versus not reimbursing us up front and we increase it into our bond payment. So.
Okay.
Chair.
Commissioner Hadcock.
Commissioner Durr, you are right. The 9 million was from city and 9 million from us to do that building. And the 9 million ended up, they switched mayors, of course, and then the 9 million, the contract was never signed. And then we ended up where we are today to a certain extent. But again, we also were going to put in 9 million on that building. Thank you.
So you'll bring us back an answer on that then?
Yes.
Commissioner Durr, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's just kind of new information that I just came across, and I thought it was worth sharing.
That's really worth sharing. That's interesting. I didn't know that. So, so we have a motion, and so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. Hearing none. Motion carries.
Thanks.
Item number 11, 12.
10A.
Does anybody want to take a short recess or anything?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, let's do it. We're in recess. Do we have to make a motion? No. We'll be back in about 5 minutes, Joe. Joe, are you ready, sir? Yeah. We're ready to roll. We're on item 10, items from the Highway Department. So, Joe, Mr. Miller, you have the floor.
Good morning, Commissioner.
That was unmuted.
Out of here.
Up in front of you is second reading of ordinance 11. I will stand for any questions. If there's any questions that have arose since the first reading, I believe we've accompanied or accommodated our utility companies in all of that they've asked.
Entertain a motion on this item?
To approve?
Motion to approve second reading.
Second reading.
Second.
We have a motion from Hadcock, second by Durr. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Move on to item B.
And another point of order. Do we need a motion to adopt?
It was technically part of the motion, if you would have read the rest of it, motion to approve the second reading and final adoption of the
Well,
ordinance.
everybody understands that motion. All right.
You want to
We
read
move
the
on?
motion, Jordan, if you want it done on the record?
Oh, sure. Move to approve the second reading and final adoption of Ordinance 11 Amendment.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Good job, Jordan.
That motion's made by Hadcock and second
Second.
by Durr. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item B, construction change order number 16.
Item B is construction change order number 16 for our South Rochford Road project. Finally came to a conclusion at the end of last year. Couple things on this change order. The base course, they had to go over the construction quantity that was bid, so there's a change order in there that's nominal. The second big one there is the shot rock quantity. So the contractor, when he started this project, got a hold of the quarry and they crushed, I believe it was 16 or 17,000 tons of material. They only ended up using about 12,000 tons of material on the project. So we were left with about 5,000 tons of material. So then the state came to us with we had to make a decision whether we pay for this material at a reduced cost and let the quarry have it, or we pay for the material at a reduced cost and then take possession of it, which we chose the latter because we do have a use for this throughout our county. After we agreed to purchase that material, we then had it trucked to our Copper Mountain pit up in Hill City, our Robertson pit here in New Underwood, and then had some of it trucked to Wall to use on drainage projects. The material dropped from a $49 installed price to $22.50 a ton. I called Pete Leans this morning and asked them what they would charge for this type of material, and it's about $45 a ton. So we got a good deal on that material. The larger portion of this change order is due to a design issue for drainage that I briefed all of you, I believe, last summer when we were having issues on this. And this is just the change order to implement the design that Avid 4 came up with. The original design removed a cross pipe upstream of a residence and shifted the drainage to the west portion and put it all coming down the west drainage ditch, and it ended up where it's always gone. Avid Ford took a look at this, and we had to figure out a way to dissipate the energy because the energy of that water at a 10 or 11% grade was coming out of there and destroying a landowner's property. The contractor agreed to fix this after they had demobilized. They mobilized back in there and fixed this for us. From my understanding, with this change order and the negative change orders that have come before it, the project is still under the contract amount, so there should not be any bill to the highway department for this. If there is a case where there is another change order or something comes down the line, we do have the dollars for this in our reserves if the need should arise. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roskinick, sir.
So I went to one of the site meetings, and Joe and I and some other highway folks, we met with every property owner on a one-on-one basis and said, what's the problem? And so basically what this reflects, if I'm right, Joe, would be finding a solution for each one of those property owners. And to my understanding, they're all happy with the results.
As far as we know, yes, every landowner is
Well,
happy.
I mean, that could change, but
Correct.
as far as we know.
On that day and after the completion of the project, Lucy Ganji was one of the largest hit on the drainage issue here, and that's what the change order is for. She's very pleased with the outcome and what we did on her property to alleviate the drainage issues that had arose. So thank God we had one of the wettest June and Julys on record up there. Otherwise, we'd have probably not known about this for 4, 5, 6, 10 years. So
That's how drainage works. That's why it's
Fair.
important to be on top of it. So Commissioner Hadcock.
So how long has this taken for this project to start to finish back? Before I was even on the commission, I think it was 10 years before trying to move it forward. And then We were still trying to figure out the details, then we got you, Joe. So how long has this project taken?
So Heine Jungi, rest his soul, previous superintendent dreamt this up in 2004. Ron might know a little bit more than I do, as I think he was part of the city council or economic development back then. So Heine Jungi actually went to the federal legislature and got a CDS, or a Congressional Delegated Spending Grant, of $9 million back in 2004. And that's when this project started, and it has gone through 3 engineers essentially. So it started with NJS, and then it went to Interstate Engineering, and we did have to get Avid 4 involved at the end. So
I think it might have started.
Excuse me. It turned out to be a pretty awesome project. Took a lot of work. I know they had some red fern issues, some environmental issues, and then you had to redo the project every 2 years because of the environmental issues, and it became a huge undertaking for your department. And Joel Junt, let's give him the credit where credit's due. He got this through for us. So pretty amazing guy from the state DOT. So great job, Joe.
So in 2004, Mike Virgil, who was the head of the Hill City Chamber of Commerce, brought that to the legislature with the idea of, if South Rochford Road was paved, you would have, it was all about generating tourism dollars for the city of Hill City, because more tourists would go through Hill City and be able to go to Rochford, and from Rochford go to Leiden, Deadwood, from Leiden, Deadwood go to Sturgis, from there go to Rapids. So you'd have that complete circle, and we'll find out if that's going to be the case this summer.
I think we've already found out. So last year there was about 200 feet of it that was not paved to complete the asphalt to Rochford Road. And last year during the rally, our traffic count went from about 150 average to over 600 average. One of the highest days was over 800 cars or trucks. And we were using our radar counter, so with the way them bikes ride in packs, I don't know that it was 100% accurate, but we do plan to do a traffic count on it this rally and see. I think with what they're doing on 385, widening it, making that less desirable for motorcycles, I think you're going to see a shift in motorcycles. The vet rally, the Camaro rallies, those are all going to come up through Leiden, Deadwood, and now on this beautiful paved road that we've got through the heart of the Black Hills. So.
Yep. All those meetings at the Moonshine Gulch helped out.
You betcha.
All right, so do we have a motion on the floor?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to authorize Highway Superintendent to approve construction change order number 16 for the South Rochford Road Reconstruction Project in the amount of $267,295.52.
Second.
We have a motion from Ross Connect, second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item C, Mr. Joe, authorization to purchase equipment.
Item number C, authorization to purchase equipment. Our department has actually been working on an equipment purchase plan since 2019. It's it's a fluid document. We're always continuously looking at our needs, looking at new things that are out there to make our jobs easier and more efficient. Our fleet is getting better and less costly every year. We still have machines that are over 40 years old. The cost of all these pieces of equipment are accounted for in our 2026 budget as part of our equipment purchase plan. We propose using Sourcewell for all of these purchases, and some of the quotes have actually come back favorable compared to what they were previously competitively bid. And the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing has actually been vetted to the best of our ability to make sure that the county is getting the best price. The first motion there is to purchase a Freightliner truck from Floyd's in the amount of $150,519. This will actually replace a 2002 International dump truck that we actually have transferred to Buildings and Grounds to replace their, I believe it was a 1990s dump truck. Last year's purchase price for a 108, which is a smaller four-wheel drive truck, was $133,022. And the last 114 that we purchased 2 years ago, that was a competitively bid truck, was $152,900. So as you can see, this truck is about $2,000 cheaper than the one we previously purchased of the same nature. So with that, I'll stand for any questions on the first, the truck, if there is any questions.
I see no questions. How about a motion? Go, Commissioner Hadcock.
You have a rotation, and that's how you did your purchasing, is that a 5-year rotation, 10-year rotation on basically Caterpillars, or is it all your equipment?
So it varies on the piece of equipment and the usage that it gets. Our motor graders are a 7-year rotation. Our trucks we're trying to get them to be 20 years or newer. Skid steers, about the same thing, 20 or 30 years or newer. Loaders, kind of the same thing. It just depends on the piece of equipment and the usage that it gets. And we take a good hard look at what it's actually costing us to maintain that piece of equipment. As you'll see here, we're actually purchasing a skid steer and a Mini X, replacing equipment that's 20 years, 25 years old. So it's just looking, we're really trying to look at making sure we're not spending more to maintain an old piece of equipment when we can buy a newer one and have a less cost of maintenance and cost of ownership. So.
And I appreciate that explanation, so the public knows that we're just not going and buying a bunch of new equipment. We actually have a rotation, we have a plan, and it's based on the warranty and other areas of concerns that equipment cause. So appreciate that, Joe. Your due diligence has been good on this, and your team's doing well with it, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, our shop foreman, TJ Morrell, has actually spearheaded a lot of this and really taken a good hard look at our equipment purchase plan since he's been in place. Going on, I think, a year here in June. Might even be 2 years. I can lose track of time. But he's really spearheaded this and done a good job in saying, hey, this piece of equipment is costing us more than it's worth to maintain it. Let's look at what a cost of a new one is. So
Then you resell them.
Yeah, so on that note, every piece of equipment that we're getting rid of or that we're replacing with these, we take a look at what the dealer will give us on trade-in, and then we look at what Purple Wave is a new auction company, not new, but it's an auction company that within the last year we've been allowed to use because they've got a contract with the state. It doesn't cost the county anything. Nice. They come out, they take the pictures, they do all the write-ups, they do everything. All we've got to do is advertise it in our newspapers so we're legal, and they're able to sell it at no cost for us, and then we get the proceeds. And we found that we get a much better bang for our buck when we do it that way.
I appreciate that, Joe. And again, what we think the public knows and how the process works is a little bit different because we're up here all the time. So it's nice to know that. And those explanations are good for the public for, again, transparency and in knowing how that the government isn't just spending because they can. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair, I'd move to authorize the Highway Department to purchase one new 2027 Freightliner 114SD Plus truck from Floyd's Truck Center, Rapid City, South Dakota, in the amount of $150,519 from the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract number 0328224-DAI.
Second.
We have a motion from Drews, second from Ross Connect. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Move on to recommended motion 2, authorize the.
So motion 2 here is to purchase a Cat 309 Mini X. They call it a Mini X. I'd like to call it a medium-sized excavator. It's in between our 305s and our large Volvo excavator. We've found when we're doing our 60-inch, 72-inch pipes that the 305s just don't have the horsepower to do some of that deep digging and lift some of our bigger pipe. We recently tried out one of these 309 excavators on a pipe job, and the crew very much liked the ability and the horsepower that this Caterpillar offers. It is still considered a Mini X, so it has rubber insert steel tracks, so we can use it on our asphalt without tearing things up. The boom still swings side to side, so we can be right next to our trench and still digging. So we see the need for these, and it's replacing a 1998 backhoe that's coming out of Hill City that is at the end of its useful life and has been for a couple, 2-3 years now. We see, this 309 and possibly one more 309 to complete our mini excavator fleet, and then we'll look at how long we can get out of those.
Any questions from the commission? We'll entertain a motion here.
Motion to approve.
Go.
For a second.
You just want to read it, motion to authorize the highway.
You want me to read it for you? Motion to requested to authorize the Highway Department to purchase one new 2025 Caterpillar 309-08A CR excavator from Butler Machinery Company, Rapid City, South Dakota, in the amount of $134,382.85 from Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract number 011723-CAT.
I have a motion from Hadcock and a second
Thank you, Joe.
from Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Recommended motion 3, Joe.
Motion 3 is the purchase of a new John Deere 330P skid steer from RDO. The lead time for this one is about 3 to 4 months, and this is also going to replace a 2005 skid steer that's at the end of its useful life. It's costing us more money than it's worth to keep running with that, and the skid steers are a vital piece of our equipment. Every day you see our trucks leaving the yard and a skid steer's on a trailer behind one of them. Especially in the summertime, they're valuable for drainage projects or asphalt projects. Very versatile piece of equipment. Combined with our mini excavators, I think we've made our fleet very useful to our workers and our constituents. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion to authorize Highway Department to purchase one new 2026 John Deere 330P skid steer from RDO Equipment Company, Rapid City, South Dakota, in the amount of $83,240.14 from the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Contract number 011723-JDC.
Second.
A motion from Raj Connect, second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Joe. and
Thank
we
you.
appreciate
Thank
the
you, Joe.
stellar job you've been doing. Like I said, we just had testament after testament today about investing in some of these department heads, how we can really create some good things. So we're moving down to like we're past 11 because we did that. So we're moving to item
12A.
12.
Yep.
Is that correct? Item
Yep.
12?
12A.
Items from Human Resources. So Walter?
Mr. Chair, I believe Sandy should come forward too.
Yep. Sandy, are you here? Yep. Want to come forward with him? Thank you.
Good morning, Commission. Walter McDuff, Risk Manager, here for your guys' approval to initiate a survey to our employees based off of the recent changes that have happened within the past couple of months. Once this survey is complete, HR team will get together and provide that information to you guys. I'll stand for any questions after that.
Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Durr.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. I have a question as to why the survey on the agenda is not public.
I could speak to you about that offline if you would like, sir.
Okay.
It's more or less for personal reasons. I spoke to the chair about it.
All right. So regarding what the potential is for sending out that survey, I mean, we're going to talk about the validity of sending something out in public, but the talking points are not there. So that's my issue.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about something that we're being asked to approve, but I'm not disclosing it to the public. And if that's the case, then why not would it be executive session?
Or continued until we know.
All right, let's continue, and then I'll give us a chance to
All right.
talk with Walter and talk
Yeah.
with. He did reach out to you guys asking for, so he wanted to get some feedback from you, but evidently nobody.
Did you
answered.
reach out to me?
No, I reached out to
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I guess I didn't answer him.
Okay.
So it's on me then, right? I'm
So,
sorry.
right, my issue is that we're
I know exactly what
discussing
you're
and we're
saying.
asked to vote on a document that is not made public.
Right. So okay.
And I have comments, I believe we should continue this, but I have some comments related to a survey that goes out to the employees.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So,
So let's have a conversation.
Okay.
You want to
Continue to the next meeting.
clean this one up and then.
so what I would suggest, before I even give you, I'm going to give you my comments, and I'll probably write a memo on it to put it with the next one, but I think we should continue it because I really don't want to talk about us approving something on a document that is not made public. So
That makes sense.
What's the
I'm going to make a motion to continue it to the next commission meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, continue to next commission meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, and then we'll get together.
Thank you. Will we decide at that time if we're going to make that public, or would?
Yeah, we'll have a conversation because I believe the document should be public.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I hear you. Thank you.
I'm having trouble again with this computer.
Yeah.
Jordan, you got a second here? My other computer's in the shop, and I made them sign something that said they wouldn't hand it over to anybody besides me if I left it there, so. I apologize.
So we're going to be on item
12B. Review of new county website and document center, Pennington County. So Cody, I'm going to give you the floor, and then you can explain what you're doing. Some time ago, the commission tasked Cody into building a new, big, beautiful website. So he's been underway on that, and one of the hurdles that they came across, I believe, was having to make it go live before you can really test everything on it. So just understand that no matter what we do, how perfect it could be or want it to be, that may be an issue, but I think that Cody will present that and try to get people to beta test this thing so we can make it. We're trying to get a new level of transparency. We're also trying to get a new level of public input and communication so that they can actually go to the website and get the information that they deem necessary in the public with a few strokes of a keystrokes versus having to try to surf all over our current website. So as they try to bring it up here, it's been a work in progress, and it will be a work in progress for a while. And so Cody, you have the floor, sir.
John. Yeah, sorry, just trying to get this stuff up here real quick. 1 second.
We'll be able to do building permits and everything online, and things like that. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to integrate more of our departments into it, like the Treasury Department, stuff like that. So that's our hopes.
Yes, and good morning. Cody Wiseman, Marketing Manager. Yes, we are looking to make as much digitally possible, or as much digital as possible. So working with all the departments to work on their portion of the website and everything too. So just going to get this up here to give you a preview. Okay, so yes, I'm just going to walk through a couple different things here. So what you're seeing right now, this is our website, our new website that we have been working on for the past year. It's been a big team has been working on to look at through the designs, focus on a lot of different aspects, what all we want to make sure we have across this site, and make it very welcoming and inviting. Right now, the site is not live. This is just a beta version of it that can hopefully go live within the next couple weeks, but just kind of wanted to walk you through a couple different things on the site to show how essentially awesome it is. So first thing right away, whenever you're coming onto here, we want people to make sure that they can get to the information as quick as possible. So right away, we have a search section in which we will be able to curate what pops up based off of the keywords. So a lot faster ways to find the information. We have different sections on here just to have different buttons that really stand out, and all of these can be changed based off of what people are trying to find. So as Commissioner Weifenbach alluded to, we want to, ask and do some surveys to figure out what information people are trying to get on here, and we'll use our analytics as well to ensure we're getting everybody where they need to go. We'll have a news section. This is some fake articles right now, but any press releases that go out from either, the different departments or sheriff's office or state's attorney's office, we'll make sure all of those are included on here. Of course, an events calendar, and then what I'm really excited for as well is we are looking to, here in 2026, put out a county newsletter.
So this will be any kind of updates from all the different departments. Again, focusing on that transparency and trying to get our information out in as many ways as possible through social media, website, newsletters, all of it, as we know people get their information in so many different formats.
Now, Cody, I'm going
Yeah.
to stop you on this one. This is, and if I remember, this is, people can opt into this.
Absolutely.
So if you want to get a county newsletter on a regular basis, you opt into it, and then it will automatically send you a county update newsletter, correct?
Yes, correct. And we are going to be working on that. What we're going to be doing from the beginning, we'll still have this up so people can sign up. We won't have, the newsletter prepared till probably, I'd say, around April is my time frame of when I'd start getting some of those out. But again, this will be, I'll ask each department if they have any information they'd like to go out, and this will be sent to anybody who does subscribe to our newsletter. So just another great avenue. Another thing I wanted to call out too, currently on our site, if you ever try to find some information, it can be a little bit difficult through tons and tons of drop downs. So what people are going to nowadays is what's called a mega menu. So whenever you hover over this, you can see every single page that you need to right at your fingertips, rather than having to find out which drop down it's under, which currently it's a bit of a maze. So again, trying to make this as easy as possible to get to all the different information. And those are the main things for the website. Again, this is hopefully going to be going live within the next few weeks. I am having every department sign off on their portions to make sure that everything is correct and transferred over properly from our old site. And another new thing I wanted to share with you as well that's part of our new website is our new document center. So this is our document center called Documents on Demand. Any and every single document that is currently on our website is now on this portion. So this is a great way for people to search through any of the documents. You could currently do that on our old site, but it ended up just giving you a very basic title. You couldn't really go through and search and find exactly what it is you're needing. So just to give you an example here, on the left-hand side, you can see all the different departments have their own folders, and then you can drop down if you're wanting to look through specific, additional documents, agriculture, property files, anything like that. But you can also search. So just to kind of give you an example here, if I did new website and clicked search, right now I have it set on any word, which means it's going to find any documents through this entire document center that has either the word new or website. I can also change this to exact phrase to ensure that we're getting new website exactly as it reads here. So we can find all the different commissioners' packets or agendas that has that in there. So just to give you an example of what it would look like, whenever you click on that, it's going to go and search through and find all the times new document was put in that, or new website was put into that document. And you'll be able to search and click through those as well here. So we'll just let this load and we can see what that looks like. Yeah, so right here you have all the different pages in which that's in. So we have the memorandum, scroll through, see where it shows. This is the, I believe, the scope that we previously had. So just a really great way to everybody to be able to find all the information through our documents. And on top of that, they can also subscribe to email notifications for this as well. So simply going into email notifications, they can sign up right here, and they can choose which folders they want to subscribe to. So essentially, if Equalization uploads a new document, they will receive an email notification stating as such, and they can go and click on that document as well. So again, the name is transparency, so we're just trying to be as transparent as possible in providing any of the information. So I'll be here for any questions you have.
I see you got a list of all the inmates in there. Is Jerry Durr on there?
I didn't search.
Oh, you're right here, okay. Work release. Have you got plenty of people to beta test for you?
So we've had, every single department is going through right now and looking through to ensure that their portion is correct. One of my goals here, me and Commissioner Weifenbach did talk about this, is to set up a survey that I will send to all of you. And I would love it if you had, 2 or 3 people take this survey, see if they can find the information that I put on there or provide me with any information that they would like to see. This is a living and breathing website. Anything we can do to continuously improve our information for the public, the better. So I welcome any and all edits, thoughts, anything like that.
What he's talking about, he's going to send you something if you have 3 people. Some of you might have a hard time finding 3 friends or something to do it, but maybe you could pay somebody to just go through that survey and check it out and just kind of see their feedback on the website and your feedback So we just want to have the best website we possibly can have.
So, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Roscoe.
Cody, under Department of DOE, is there some direction for people that want to, when we come up to the assessment appeals, that process that explains how that works and try to make it a little bit easier for the folks that are, that they feel their property is not assessed right, so they want to move forward. So how's that addressed on the website?
Yeah, so that is something we can definitely address. I'm not sure about the specific page. Under equalization, we have all these different pages here where you can go into property assessment and kind of figure out, let's see here, change in assessed value and all the different information there. So everything that we have on this new website is a direct copy from our old website. So anything that has just the content itself was just copied over. So anything like that you're mentioning that, I'm not finding an easy way for this, please let me know. And that way we can make it stand out a little bit better or make it easier to find.
That would be a good place to start right there, to have that appeal process on here, because that's going to come up. So
right.
Get with Shannon and have him add that to here if it's not already, or make it more,
Well, I guess my question is, if they go to the county assessor's office, don't they have to fill out a form?
Yep.
And
They do.
to start the process. So my question is, could they fill that form out without making an appointment and taking their time and county employees' time, and do a lot of that online?
Absolutely, and that's my goal too as well. So I'll show you here. Let me find under equalization, because I believe they started to use some of our contact us forms, or not equalization, I apologize, emergency management. So yeah, so we do have these nice new forms that are going to be on all website. I did send an email out to all departments a few months ago asking what forms they would like to make digital. So some have gotten back to me, some haven't. I know everybody's busy, so but that is something I would like to do. And these forms are secure. We made sure to check that with the revised team. So yeah, anything we can make digital, we would love to do that. So obviously we have contact us forms, but I've talked with planning department about their building permits and everything, so they're very customizable forms. So yeah, any of those things that you think would be great to be digital, please let us know, and I can talk with the department heads about that as well.
Another one that would be, folks that want to qualify for ag status, instead of coming down here, they could do it online, send it, and then DOE could come back and say, well, we need to know some more information, and we need to verify income, but just try to do as much as that online instead of
having to come down.
Yeah,
I agree
exactly.
100%.
Especially this location, it's not the easiest for a
That's
lot
what
of people.
Cody will be looking for, all that input from you guys. And
Absolutely.
As we keep moving. Commissioner Dirk, sir.
Just a suggestion that, Jordan, could you make this a topic at a department head meeting? To make sure that Cody's got some top cover from the board that we would like to get these responses back so he can implement some of this stuff.
The people that don't want to respond, just give us their name.
He got it. All right.
That includes our payroll people too. Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Any
well, thank
other
you all.
questions for Cody? So this is a live document, like you said, it's a dynamic, so really counting on all of us to make it successful. So appreciate it, Cody.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, items from commission office. There you go. Hi, Sandy.
Sandy Sortland, Senior HR Manager. We are discussing the compensation policy. It currently does not have any statements in regards to the step increases or merit increases that were voted on by the board in December. And so we needed to update the policy to include that language. And I would stand for any questions. This is an addition to the policy. It's not a change to the policy. It would just.
I think we might have a motion to continue this or something, right? To do some more further work on it. I don't think it's ready for prime time yet. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe the language in here really doesn't cover what the board kind of discussed during the budget process. And so I would like to continue this. And my suggestion when I say continue this would be work with Jordan on some specific language, and I think the language should be leaning more toward, which we've talked about, and I know that there's been some pushback on this, but it should be tied to a positive performance review. So not just like an automatic step increase based on time and service, it should be leaning toward more of a merit increase. That's my thought. But when you get down to the change in the language here that says step increases are not automatic and must be reviewed and approved in accordance with established compensation procedures, then that's quite ambiguous in my mind as to what is the follow-up, and so what procedures are we talking about?
The procedures that we're following right now is that we get a payroll notice from the department that lets us know what the anniversary date of the employee is, their current wage, and what their step increase should be. That's reviewed to make sure that it is accurate in relation to the payroll records, and then we put that on the personnel actions report as you've seen in the consent agenda. So that's what the current procedure is.
Right, but so getting into this, you know, I have a couple issues with it. One, I believe it's ambiguous, and it's not. I believe if the COLA goes to the scale, I believe if you're getting an annual increase, it should not be for time of service or it's related to your anniversary date, but it should be more of a merit-based. And the reason I say that is if you just have automatic pay increases, we gave a 2.9% COLA that goes to the scale, and then we have, you know, about a 1.5% increase annually. And if you have 5 employees in an office and 4 of those employees are going above and beyond, or, you know, doing what's expected of them, and you have 1 employee that is not performing to the level of the rest of the team, how are we assured that, you know, there's some check and balance in place that employee, the 5th employee is not getting the same increase annually everybody else is? Because what I see happening is that's kind of a morale thing. And so if you have people in a department and they are performing and doing a good job, they should get a merit increase. If they are underperformers, that needs to be addressed. They should not be getting the same merit-based increase as everybody else in the office. And I see it as kind of a morale issue, is why would I perform to the level I am when somebody else, and I'm not gonna say that's happening here. I know it does happen. And we don't have a procedure in place right now that says that the employees are getting an annual performance review, and it should be tied to what I believe should be performance-based, not just time of service. And if it's just a time of service, then we have longevity pay for that. You can call it whatever you want. So anyway, I think some of that needs to be looked at, and it goes down to what I brought up before, that we have nothing that clarifies, because I've asked the question. So if we have somebody, and I hope that this would be a good case scenario, but let's say that we have somebody working for buildings and grounds that has been in custodial for 5 years, and they want to seek a better opportunity within the organization. And so they put in for a corrections officer. So they go in for a corrections officer, and their anniversary date goes back 5 years ago. And so they're into their first month as a corrections officer, and their anniversary date pops up. And then theoretically, based on our current operational procedure, they would get a step increase to the new wage of a corrections officer 1 month into the position.
And those are all things that we can address, but we still need to have something in policy now that reflects what we're currently doing so that it can be audited too. That's why we are putting this forward right now. We could look at making those changes and working with our department heads to get something set up for the 2027 budget cycle.
Okay.
I don't know that we can make that change immediately. There's a lot of things that have to go into that thought process. There's a lot of things that would need to be changed. And in order for us to do that, we need to work together as a team to make that happen. This particular change is actually based on feedback from the department head meeting last week that Jordan and I presented, the original, what you're talking about. This actually reflects what we're currently doing, and we do need to have it in policy so that we have something to audit to.
All right. So I believe, I'm just going to ask, did you get pushback at the department head meeting about what I just described?
We more received pushback because that's not, the merit increase piece was not what was part of the motions. and it was not the interpretation of the department heads.
Okay.
We want to work on this together as a team so that we can make this happen and make it what you want, but we can't just make it happen immediately. There's a lot of pieces that have to be changed.
Okay. So I'm not sure that the change in this language
Changes anything from what we have already?
No, we're currently operating this way based on what I'm reading, and it's not changing anything. And I think what we were asking for, at least I was, to have a discussion on it, is that it is merit-based. And my understanding is there was pushback on a merit base and promotion, and it goes back to some of the questions that have been asked, you know. And there has been big changes because previously that personnel change report was not even on the agenda. It was buried in the minutes of the meeting. And so it goes back to what Commissioner Hadcock, you know, has talked about. And it's just, you know, it's being open and it's being transparent. And I don't think the fact that, at least I brought it up, that I think that we should not have automatic pay increases outside of a COLA that are just not tied to performance. And I'm not sure how far spread it is, but I'm hearing that, you know, some employees have not had performance reviews in quite a while. I've asked the previous HR director, do you have any way to track performance reviews in your office? Not anything that's outside of my office. No, I don't track those. And so I know that we have some work to do on our personnel module, but the reminder that I'm going to make about the pay, the benefits, and the personnel is that that is not we can take department head input, but those are decisions, policy and personnel and pay and benefits are board decisions. And so that's why some of these things I would like to have a conversation on, and I'm not sure that this fixes anything. And I guess I would ask Jordan, what's your input on this?
We certainly can continue this to a future meeting where we can incorporate more of the board's direction. So long as it is kind of the will of the board, we want to make sure that we have enough of a consensus that we understand what we're putting forth to the department heads. I would like to have a little bit more time to educate everybody on what proposed changes are and why, and hear the discussion from them. It doesn't necessarily have to start in a public meeting, which unfortunately, because of the time frame of all of this stuff coming up, we just talked about this for the first time. Department heads saw it for the first time last Thursday. There wasn't enough time for them really to digest it. So we thought, okay, well, what we'll do is try to scale back and say, let's just go ahead and do what you guys have already made in motions. You've already approved the things that are basically up there on the screen. And then we will talk about these extra cases a little bit more at length so that we can understand what the impact is going to be on a department by department basis, because it will be different depending on what they currently do individually with each of those offices. So right now, I don't think we have too much liability for audit purposes. It's unfortunate that we can't point back to an employee handbook that matches the motions you've made, but the motions are what kind of dictate the policy in the first place. So you are somewhat covered. Oh, sorry. Yes, go
No,
ahead.
you're good.
Commissioner Hadcock.
So, I think for the employees, the department heads, you need to have more conversation, because last year was kind of confusing for everybody. The conversations need to be had and vetted through the process, not just by bringing up and say there's a change. It needs to be discussed a little bit more, find some resolution with that. So I'm getting what you're saying, but I'm not willing to put that motion forward on that step increase. The other issue is on the time of service. I'd like that clarified, because you already know the time of service. You had 3 elected officials that got time of service, and other elected officials did not. So I'd like it clarified. Are we paying time of service to elected officials? Or are we not? Because 3 got paid time of service.
No.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying.
Yep.
So, and number 2, was that ever followed up on? Because,
Yes.
and that was paid back.
It was paid back.
Okay.
Everything is rectified.
And that's okay, because people make mistakes. The main thing is that it was corrected, and that people have that understanding that you do not get paid that time of service. The main thing, it was corrected, people understood, and people that were doing the auditing, or not the auditing, the auditor at the time as well, so has an understanding, or we're gonna have a new auditor now, understanding of where we're moving forward on that. So we have a clarification up front that elected officials are not paid time of service. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
So, yeah, Commissioner Hadcock brought up the point that I would like to kind of hammer home, and I'm getting feedback that some department heads don't feel like this policy change is ready for prime time. And if they just saw it, last week prior to coming to the commission, I've always been a big proponent of shopping these changes and getting feedback through that chain. So getting back to, and this is one of the reasons that, I said I didn't feel that we needed a comp committee. I felt that this stuff, policy changes and impactful things could be shopped through the department head meeting, and the department heads have input on it. So I would like to see the department heads with some of the things that we've talked about. And I would suggest that if you commissioners individually have input, like Commissioner Hadcock just brought up, because we were told that we needed a clarification on our time of service policy, that we get the information to Jordan, work with HR, but go back and shop this with department heads. And then, once it's been vetted, and even though everybody may agree or not agree, at least we know what some of the nuances are when it comes forward.
So we can have a good conversation.
Right.
That's the bottom line, is the conversation with the department heads, because they have to figure it out, and your auditor has to figure out where you're going with your new stuff, and your payroll has to. So it's not something you take a week or two or whatever. It's going to go through somewhat of a process, so people are on the same page. Plus, department heads, you need to give us input on some of the stuff that we talk about up front for your employees, and how your, whether it be time of service or anything else that we might be more helpful for changes on compensation. Because now we have 17 department heads instead of, 3 or 4 that were in those compensation committees. It's going to be a huge difference of what you're thinking, and we care. We care where you want to go. We care about your merit, your promotion, and if that's a huge thing, tell why. Because that's what we're here, is to promote the employees and the department heads, and making the payroll, the promotions, anything we can do for the employees better for the future, where before it just had a few people vetting it. So today is the day to start looking at, as department heads, of what you think. I appreciate your thoughts. I know your commission appreciates your thoughts. It doesn't have to be a commissioner or commissioner's suggestions. It needs to be through the people that have to work it every day and do it every day with their employees, and work with the people that, bottom line, we appreciate their input, because we'll do something and I don't hear about it till later. So I'd like to hear about it now, since we're having those conversations on some of the changes that we can change. And hopefully it's positive for Pennington County, because I know there's a lot of people, when we were on compensation, and I was telling you all that a lot of the department heads felt left out. Even if you have a big department head, it's easier to have conversations with your commissioners, with your HR, just to give the suggestions, and then they bring it forward as well, of concerns that they have. So main thing, communicate to us. Part of that is with Jordan, if you have any issues with some of the stuff we're bringing up as well, that ask Commissioner Hadcock, Commissioner Durr, what are you thinking, and where are you coming from? Because that's what we're here for. Instead of figuring out on the dais all the time.
So if we continue this, Jordan, do we need a specific date, or do you want to just?
Whatever.
I was going to say, it's up to you guys. You have 2 different ways to handle this. If you want this brought back at a specific date, I would ask that it be after the next department head meeting. And so that would be at the earliest March 17th. If you'd rather just take no motion on this at all, no action, just let this die, and then we will come back with further research as we've communicated with the
I'm going to leave it
appropriate
up to the
parties.
commission, but I do want to say one thing, and then what's confusing is when we don't have a good policy, but we also, kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier about putting good people in place. Right now, we're restructuring our HR department. We don't exactly, know what we're doing there yet, so we got to make a decision on that too, based on, but I can tell you, if we're not doing performance reviews in the county of 900 people, we're not practicing best practices, and that's something that we've striven to do, is practice
So I
best
like
practices. So.
Jerry's thought process. You got 5 employees, 3 overperform, 2 don't. The ones that don't, there should be the difference that they don't should be given to the ones that do, just so that there's an incentive for them to keep working hard, and then the ones that are underachieving, that gives them incentives to work a little harder.
I don't know how anybody could manage without having performance reviews for their employees. Number one, employees don't know what, if all of a sudden the manager decides that employee's not doing a good job, and I mean, I would be completely confused. So,
sorry, Ron, it also protects the employees, because if you get performance reviews and you have all this good stuff and then all of a sudden something happens, it protects you as an employee as well, let alone the department head. So it's also a secondary
And I think it-
mechanism in your department that shows, number one, I'll keep saying it, if Jerry, 3 of you are performing and then I get a performance review and then you see, and then why did you get a raise? Because, you know, I took these classes, I did this, this, and this. It also incentivizes people why they're getting, one person getting raised than the other instead of, oh, they just like them more than me. You know what I'm saying? So you get rid of that.
Well, let's put this to rest and let's move it on indefinitely until we get some better feedback. It'd be my opinion, but I would also say that you don't want me micromanaging your department, that's for sure. And that's what this leads to, and that's what's happening now, is that we should have a process and policy and procedure in place, and the last thing you want is a bunch of knucklehead commissioners trying to micromanage your department. So we'll leave it at that upon them, and then they'll have a meeting, and you understand that, you know, we, like having the raises come forward, and they did a COLA raise and then did another 1.5 raise, and now we want to do other raises. Pretty soon you get 5 raises in a period of time, but the reality is, in the end, the taxpayers have to pay that. So, and does it fit with what, we don't want to go backwards, is what I'm saying. We want to go forward, not go back to, you know, how things were. We want to make forward, get dynamic people and practice best practices. So I'll look for a motion from someone here. You guys decide.
I think we.
Or do we just don't need a motion? We're just going to let this one fly? All right, we'll move on to the next item, please.
The next item is a memo that I submitted asking to be formally named as the interim director for the HR department. This is primarily for structure in our department so that everyone knows who's supposed to be supervising, and if we have any authority issues. It's one of those things that, yes, things so far have been working fine. However, because we don't know when the next director is going to be appointed or if we're going to have a director moving forward with the restructure, this just helps with how the structure is supposed to work in the office and how it looks from the outside when someone goes, okay, so who do I need to talk to? Do I talk to Sandy? Do I talk to Walter? Do I talk to Cody? Who do I need to talk to? Being named officially as an interim director would allow for that structure to be very apparent from the outside. This is something that is done in the past. This has been done several times in the past, as recently as just last year. We had an interim JSC commander because of a medical issue. The auditor is currently an interim auditor until the election.
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay, on that one, as far as elected officials, I'm going to say this, and it's not on you, it's just, I'm going to say it for the 5th time. There is no interim elected official. Once they're appointed, they are the elected official. They don't have an interim title until the next election.
I would stand for any questions that you have.
Anybody want to comment on this or make a motion? I thought at last time we met, we basically directed Sandy to be that person to answer to that position. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, we did.
Without a motion, you guys basically said, we think that what we're doing right now kind of works and let's continue with it. If you were to make a specific motion, you could designate someone an interim HR director with the authorities of the HR director until such a time as you guys figure out what the board wants to do with HR. The other thing to do as well is to discuss compensation for that position, because sometimes when you guys have granted interim authority and you're saying this is above and beyond what your normal job is, we will compensate you for that. We do have a history, a precedent for that, and that's something that you should also consider today during this item as you figure out what you'd like to do with this. So basically, we're talking about the authority by formally appointing someone the interim director, and then compensation that goes with that, if any.
So you think the authority is an important
Yes.
for us, Jordan?
It really clarifies the fact that they're speaking with the voice of the HR office.
Okay, and she's sitting up here and we're beating her up all the time for it, so that's up to you guys. I'm comfortable with it. Because we haven't made a decision on what's happening in the HR department yet. It's fair to them to have some direction there.
And as a quick update on that, the board asked that Commissioner Durr and myself meet with all the HR staff and come up with something within 30 days. Technically, our 30 days is up in just a few days, and then we should have something to present at the March 3rd meeting on what we see as some HR issues, other than the item I will be discussing a little bit later in this
We're
meeting.
looking forward on what direction we might take. Commissioner Hadcock.
So bottom line, I don't know what that should be at this point for compensation. I know we have a trainee that's going to be taking over, it sounds like Shannon's, and we didn't give them compensation for that, if I'm correct. So how does this work moving forward, and what should that be? And does it have to have a performance review beforehand? Is that
Okay.
behind the scenes on the performance review and what we're thinking? Or is it, I know we have to do the compensation up front, but basically, I'd like to know all the details before I give somebody a
So
$12 or
Commissioner Durr.
$13 raise
Yeah.
or $10 raise.
there's another item on the agenda that kind of ties to personnel, and since we're having this discussion, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive for personnel.
We have a motion to go into executive session over personnel. We're going to handle
Pursuant to SDCL 125
Right.
subsection.
and
And it ties to this topic and another one.
slash
Okay.
personnel, so
Yes.
we'll do that, and then we'll come back.
Need a motion? Or we have a motion and second.
Motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right. We have a motion to come out of executive session.
So move.
Second.
A motion to come out of executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's roll. Move on to,
So, Mr. Chair, on this agenda item, I'm going to ask that we don't take any action on this. We're going to believe anyway with Jordan and some of the meetings that we've had with HR, come back with a recommendation on the 3rd of March for that meeting. And until we have the information put together, I'm not ready to move on this.
all right, is everybody cool with that? So no action. Move on to item number 13. Thank you, Sandy. Item number 13, items for commission office. County payroll operations. Commission office.
All right. I'm going to run through some of the points in my memo that I really quickly prepared for you guys. As we had discussed 2 meetings ago, the board had asked that Commissioner Durr and myself speak with HR staff and try to figure out what, if any, restructuring or reorganization we would need to do with county HR operations. During our initial conversations, one clear theme kept popping up, and it popped up pretty firmly from a lot of the staff, and it regarded payroll operations. What we found that it was due to just a series of unfortunate events. It was a circumstance created by people leaving positions, going out on medical, stuff like that. There was a whole bunch of issues with the rollout of the transition of the payroll operations from the auditor's office over to the HR office. And it sounds like the consensus between all departments and all offices that we've spoken to so far that are involved in payroll operations is that the county needs short-term stabilization of payroll functions. And that has to be immediate, and that's why I decided to bring this up earlier than our March 3rd overall HR evaluation. I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to hear the fact that I think in the short term, we need something done about payroll right now so that they've got the knowledge, the training, the skill set, and everything like that to help make sure that our county payroll operations continue unabated and with better and greater accuracy and more transparency, as we've always discussed. And so, oh, go ahead.
So the conversation would be to move the payroll personnel into for the current time, move it into the commission office till we get everybody on the same page with this?
My recommendation currently is, because of the fact that there's no one else in the organization who has had as much experience in Tyler's payroll operations outside of the commission office, myself and my employee Ken are in the office. We are uniquely qualified to help impart some of that knowledge. And if we had direct oversight and direct impact into the payroll operations of the county, that would, I believe, help us expedite the timeline for stabilizing payroll operations. And then I'm recommending that the commission look at where permanent the placement of the payroll operations should be during the budget cycle. So you'll give me a couple of months.
I think most importantly is that we got two wonderful employees here that need some oversight on this Tyler software rollout was very unorganized, very unprofessional. We are working to fix that and give everybody some direction, and everybody try to get everybody on the same page with the payroll, that everybody's using the same system, not having to email people and not having to say change this, change that, so we can get something functional so it works. And Tyler is our future here. That's what we decided, the decision that was made prior to me being here, but it's a good decision, and it's very robust and it's very useful. So having them in the office with you and Kenner would help bridge that gap until we can get everybody on the same page. Because right now we're using 2 or 3 different timekeeping systems. We have inconsistencies in the way we're paying people, inconsistencies in how we're paying people holiday pay, all these types of things that should not happen. So you think this is helpful to help resolve that? Correct?
Chair.
Yeah, Commissioner Hadcock.
So bottom line, to get everybody on the same page, and hopefully before budget, we've got these 2 young ladies situated with some of the areas that they need help with, and then we can move forward. What happens is if you're thrown into something and then you're like, okay, it becomes a lot for you to understand, and then you're having to deal with department heads and elected officials, and you are not elected, that becomes a big headache. You don't know how to take that direction. You don't know how to show that direction without, feeling like you're being facetious in one sense, but the other, you're just trying to do your job. So for them, I think they've had a hard road since they've been with us, trying to figure all this out. I don't care who it is. If you're dealing with elected and non-elected, it's pretty crazy. So I'm glad we're making a decision to put them in the office where they can find direction. We also can see a little bit more of their concerns as commissioners of what's happening or what needs to happen for the future to make them more successful than they are today. So that's our job. And it's also to get a hands around that payroll to make sure that that's a huge part of what we do in Pennington County. So for me, I'm all willing to move that forward, and if they need to change in a different office later, or they've got it, dialed in, and they're ready to do what they have to do, that's fine. But I think they need some more direction, and like I said.
We got a motion coming out of that conversation?
No, I just like to talk a lot right now. So basically,
Sure.
the fiscal impact of it is going to be huge for us. Thank you.
Commissioner Roskinek.
This question's for Jordan. Jordan, what's short term? I mean, that's pretty open-ended.
Yeah, short term, and that's why I was pitching that we analyze this during the the budget cycle. As you look at this and say, okay, well, at the very least, we're going to need 6 months minimum with the staff to do that. Well, if we count 6 months from today, we're in the middle of our budget cycle, and we can discuss then at that point what's been working, what's not been working, how much time do we have left. I can't give you a full scope of what we have to do to fix all the payroll operations because it's a little bit substantial at the moment. And so I just know that once we get our hands around it, we'll have a better idea as we're looking at 2027's budget and moving forward. And just to clarify as well, my approach, of course, is going to be to make sure that it's a turnkey operation, that no matter where payroll ends up at the end of the day, it'll function in any of the offices that it impacts, which would be the commission office, the auditor's office, and HR.
So I think sooner or later, we're going to have to figure out what we feel is long-term. And, I feel that it should go back to the auditor's office. That's just me. But can we do what you're talking about without fiscally putting these folks right in the commission office and do the same thing without bricks and mortar and a building that's not even a year occupied and start putting walls up?
Oh, certainly. Okay, yeah, I guess I can talk a little bit about the logistics of that. So even before we moved into the commission office, there were plans to add more offices and plans to kind of streamline it. I have one big concern with the commission office right now, and it's from a security standpoint, in that we're the only office in this entire building that people can just walk right in to the restricted space and have unfettered access to potentially secured areas. And so as I was speaking with the Buildings and Grounds Director Purcell about this, we've identified the fact that, well, we can have a front counter installed. And so all of this goes into, well, also if we needed a little bit more office space, even if it was temporary or long-term, it doesn't hurt that we can convert things from a workroom into offices, move the workroom into a more common area, and make sure that we have secured access to the commission office, because that is a huge concern for me, for my staff. I'm concerned about them having to deal with public just walking in on the space, and we tend to kind of migrate around, and so if someone's not right there when someone comes in the door, they could potentially move through some more secured areas without as much
I don't know, just to me, it seems like that should have been thought of
I agree.
way before we even moved in this building.
It was, honestly, that whole office got changed by the last office manager that was there. It all got redirected, redesigned. So there is space in there right now without having to
Yes,
do any remodeling.
Plenty of space in the back.
We could shuffle people around right now within the existing space without doing any construction. We could move some offices around and have.
But I asked the same question, Commissioner Roskinick, and Director Davis showed me the original plan, and it got changed almost towards the end of the construction period, which cost us a lot of money, and it made the office semi-dysfunctional. So that being said, I mean, that's where we're at with it today. So it's definitely off from the original plan. I don't know how that got changed. Davis wasn't in on that conversation when it got changed, but it got changed. So that being said, we don't have to make any changes either to move those people.
No.
But the biggest thing is to have, for my skills of management and years of management, we found that when it's easier for them just to walk out the door and grab, I mean, all the time involved with having to call Jordan or whatever, we really have to put a tourniquet on this.
So, Mr. Chair, I've got a couple comments before we go with the motion. So, Jordan and I were tasked with meeting with the HR team and everybody, surrounding that about what the direction would be for the HR office, with leadership and organizationally. And during those discussions with the employees and as a group and individuals, it came out that even Sandy thought that this would be a good move to move payroll over to the HR office, over to the commission office, because she did not have the expertise in payroll nor the expertise in the Tyler technology software. The two employees that are tasked with doing this right now, was unsolicited. It just came out that they felt to be best supported in what they needed to do, that they have been going to the commission office to get this, and we still have many things to work on, and both of them, in these meetings asked to be put under the commission office right now. And I think the other thing that goes with that, in the absence of an HR director, and when you get down to pay and benefits and policy interpretation, I think it's also beneficial to really have some top cover coming from the Board of Commissioners and saying, this is the direction, this is what we support, we're going to get through this, and then go back to what the previous policy that we had up earlier, getting back and saying, go back and shop this with department heads. I also had a meeting with Sabrina and Casey, who were in support of moving this operations over there right now because of the expertise. And so I'm going to make a motion to assign the administrative oversight of county payroll operations to the commission office effective immediately on an interim basis. The organizational placement of payroll shall be formally reviewed by the commission during the 2027 budget process to determine whether the interim arrangement should be continued, modified, or made permanent.
A motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll move on to the next item here. This is the fire department memo? Okay. So Jason, are you still here? Jason Culberson? Yeah, can you come up front just so we can beat you up a little bit? I know.
Should have brought the dog.
Should have brought the dog, makes it easy.
You should see how he treats me, usually. He put his dog in jail, so we're gonna beat him up for that.
Got him.
Oh, the sheriff's got your dog?
Yep.
I'll be darned. He's raising money to get your dog out of jail, right?
That's right.
Yeah, so all these guys are gonna pitch in.
Should get him out by this weekend. So.
Okay, so the conversation started when the ambulance department realized that they were running really, I mean, you guys were running a lot of service and not getting compensated for it, and it got to the point you covered it, the city covered it for a long time, and now it's gotten to the point where it's unmanageable anymore would be a good place to put it. I mean, not unmanageable for you guys to provide the service, just unmanageable for the cost than what you guys were getting paid back in Medicaid and whatever. And so you came to the county and said, hey, listen, can you help us out? And so we tasked Jordan and Jerome, who's here. Jerome, you want to come forward? And the only reason I got Jerome involved is not to participate in the actual development of this, but just to help us with the he's had success in making districts and that type of stuff. Yep. So make sure that when people don't attack the messenger, when Jerome is only here to help us with looking at districts and the formulation of them. And so the county decided that we would help in the process, form districts what we could. We don't want to take that responsibility on ourselves. Obviously, in the end game, it is the district that has that responsibility to do that. What we thought we would do is help maybe try to draw some boundaries and give people a little bit of guidance. We'd have several communications with the fire districts saying, hey, and they've got, because they have connection with the ambulance, and in the end, they're going to call those guys anyway. We know that. So trying to keep them in the loop. So Jordan, go ahead and take the conversation from there.
Absolutely. So the reason this is on today's agenda is because there was a concern in one of the meetings we had recently had, because the question was first asked, what can the county do then for ambulance services? Of course, we have several different options that we could do, and the formation of a district is the only one that, as we looked at it, it's like, well, wait a minute, this is tied then to specific statutes that has specific timelines associated with it as well. And if we're talking about Rapid City pulling back on services without a contract or something in place by the end of 26, even if we tried to form a district from the county's perspective, how soon could they start to generate a levy? How soon could they do a special assessment? How soon can they start to see money that they could then contract for services and provide for the response area within their district? And what we're finding right now, it's still very preliminary, so I don't exactly have even anything ready for public discussion yet, but through conversations with the state's attorney's office who's been looking at this, it looks like no matter what we did, even if we tried to establish districts for the primary ballot, which technically it looks like they could get on the primary ballot, we would still miss the time frame so that the district could form a levy ad valorem or whatever it is, or a special assessment by 26 payable 27. Because that has to happen, of course, by October of the year. And so no matter what we end up doing, it seems like we don't have to take immediate action today. Okay. So then we can back this up and say, okay, if the board doesn't have to take immediate action, we start looking at the various options that we've got available to us. Of course, we're talking about two distinct things here, a response area and a taxing or revenue source, a district of some sorts. There are different methods that they can be formed and handled. You can, of course, contract with services with different ambulance services, and it doesn't even have to be a specific levy. The county, if they wish to provide these services, they could contract and just say everything outside of a municipality or another district that is providing those services, we'll just handle out of the general levy. These are all options to now look at, and knowing that we don't necessarily have a time crunch where the board has to take action immediately, I think it'd be very valuable to have more meetings with all of the players and make sure that everyone's in the same room talking about the way forward here, because what we're seeing still, and I believe it's in this memo and it's been presented before at the last meeting, there are not competing, but there are separate ideas on how to start to provide some of these services for different areas within the area that Rapid City is going to be pulling back from. And so we need to take a little bit more time to make sure that we're coordinating and collaborating with all those impacted parties and come up with a clear and concise plan moving forward.
So I think, Jordan, and I think the one thing we don't want to get into or don't want the fire department to get into is the actual formation of those. We'll help them, assist them, basically. Jason from the Rapid City Fire Department, he has a line in the sand, but he also understands the importance of providing services. But right. And if he doesn't draw a line in the sand, it'll continue to get kicked down the road. and then nothing will ever get resolved. So just so people listening know, Jason's not going anywhere. He's still going to provide the service no matter what, but he's drawing a line in the sand so we can get off our duffs and get something done. But it's really not the county's responsibility, but we're acting as a liaison to try to help these districts get formulated. So we're trying to bring the players together to help do this. So with that being said, Jordan, what do you want from this commission today?
Action as far as today is concerned is I think you guys probably should have a little bit of a discussion as to which method we should start to look at here, but you'll need probably a little bit more of a presentation to describe exactly what we're doing here. I wanted to note first that there is no statutory requirement for the county to provide ambulance services. As you said, Commissioner Weifenbach, the county wants to function as a conduit to assist people doing this. So it can either be by petition of peoples or it can be by resolution of the Board of Commissioners to form an ambulance taxing district. That then goes to a vote of the residents within the proposed district area to say, yes, we want this, no, we don't.
So once we could literally set up the districts. Is that correct?
Yeah, we set the boundaries and then say
people in those districts can
put this
go
to a vote of the public there within that district to form
Do you see any other way of this getting done? I mean, if we wait for each district to come forward and say, here's what we want to do, is that going to be?
It'll be a question of the boundaries, I think, is going to ultimately be what this comes down to. Is
and that's where
if Box Elder and New Underwood are coming forth with their own district, the county doesn't have to then initiate a district that way. But who then is taking which response areas? And that's got to be a larger discussion, I think, with all.
Does everybody up here understand the direction we're going? Ron and I have had several conversations about this, so I knew he did. But Jerry, did you have a question or a concern there? Go ahead.
Is there, I know that Box Elder and New Underwood have had meetings regarding this matter, and is there a current petition being circulated to form a district?
I'm not sure if I can answer that. I know there was a couple of folks that were trying to start up their own ambulance taxing district because they wanted to start their own ambulance service, and that's where it becomes difficult, is that each one of these districts can then decide who they want to contract with. It may be us. Obviously, we think we can probably provide the most efficient and et cetera, but again, it's not us that should be
makes the
driving
final
that.
decision.
So,
Jerome.
Commissioners, Jerome Harvey, Pennington County Fire Administrator. My understanding is their petition for New Underwood Box Elder is active and was signed at a meeting in New Underwood by some people in New Underwood probably a month ago, but has not gotten any traction, if you will, in the Box Elder area yet. They have not taken it out into the public in the Box Elder area any type of en masse at all. The other one that's going on, is, of course, is what Leo Sandbeck has been working on. That's the one that's Eastern Custer County, South Central Pennington County. That one is pretty well defined.
and I do have a meeting with the Box Elder city administrator coming up, and then next week I meet with the Meade County Commission.
So have there been discussions, so like so New Underwood and or Box Elder, independent of a taxing district, are they looking at contracting with Rapid City?
I can't tell you 100%, but that is the indication I'm receiving from Box Elder at least. I have not had direct conversations with the mayor in New Underwood.
All right. So I think it's worthy of a public discussion. I think, anyway, my way forward would be that we make an agenda item out of it and that we invite all the players. And so we get Wall, because they have their own Eastern Pennington County Ambulance District, but it all ties into it. And so you have Wall, New Underwood, and Box Elder, and any other entity that this could impact, and we just have a public discussion about what they feel, what are they looking at doing within their organizations, and what do they feel is the best way to move forward on this. I would hate to have the commission, which we can, drop the boundary, do all the publication, put it out there, and then have it, not supported because the information wasn't out there, so.
And either way, that's what's going to happen. So I'd agree that if we at least give them the opportunity to come and have a meeting, and that I know Box Elder's had communication about it, and I know is it Hermosa's got a pretty good district put together?
Yeah,
Leo Sandberg would actually been here, he just called me a few minutes ago and had an issue where he couldn't be here.
That's fine.
But he did send the maps of what their proposed area is, and I believe that Jordan has that.
I believe so.
Yeah.
So we can put
the rest
together
of the
what
maps
some of the
too.
proposed areas we have are, and then where the holes are, so Jason understands where the holes are gonna be, and then we can have a public meeting, Jason, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to have, the parties from Wall, New Underwood and Box Elder, and at least those entities come forward, and we can have this discussion here about
And then
how we feel.
we can have a picture.
Correct.
Can we have just like a special meeting where that's just the only thing that's happening?
Yeah, we can do that.
I like that idea. That way, everybody comes, they know what time they gotta be here, and they're
I
not
would
having to
recommend
sit.
that.
Pardon?
I would recommend that, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
Okay. And then we can understand where we need to be, and you guys can understand where you need to be, and then we can.
Yeah, and and I have a comment, kind of unrelated, but somewhat
ahead.
related. So, for example, when you set up these taxing districts and then the timeline, then they have to, elect a board. They have to go through that. They have to decide whether or not they're going to do a levy or a special assessment. And it came to my attention, which I asked to have Tyler look at this, but I got one of my constituents in Wall got a hold of me about the levies on their assessment notice, and part of it was talking about how much the assessed value has gone up, and then the associated levies that go with that. And so for Eastern Pennington County Ambulance District, they have a special assessment. And so they don't have a levy, they're doing a special assessment, which you can do by property. So the law says that you can do 60 cents per thousand with all of the evaluation in that taxing entity. So in this case, they are getting the total valuation of all of the property within that taxing entity, and they're not doing a levy, they're doing a special assessment. And then they're laying that special assessment and exempting ag properties without a structure. And so when you look at that 60 cents levy, the individual that got hold of me is paying $129. And so I think that these are all things when we make these presentations and we talk about forming these districts and we talk about, how they levy independently and do these things. It's either, special assessment. But in this case, they took that total evaluation of the assessed value and laid that 60 cents levy across the total evaluation and then sent the auditor and said, we can generate 185,000, 200,000, whatever that number is, but we're going to generate it by exempting these properties, and we're only going to overlay it on owner occupied or if there's a building. And so in essence, what you're doing is taking that 60 cent levy through a special assessment, and then on some properties, it's more than double what you could do if you were implementing a levy. And so it's about educating the public and those individuals in those areas, knowing that if you form this, you could have a board that is setting a special assessment and not a levy, and you might be paying double. And that's one thing that I'm looking at. The other comment I'm going to make is that I've asked Jordan to look at it, but in New Underwood, I'm in New Underwood taxing district for fire. And so I have a fire levy, and then I'm getting a county administration fire levy. And I kind of look at that as a double tap on the people in that area, in that district, that are getting a double tap on a levy to provide, in essence, some of the same services. So I think all of that, now that this has come up, I am getting a lot of questions about this, and that's why I think it would be good that we just have
Let's do that.
a special meeting, put it all out there, and let the public know what they're looking at. And if you decide to do this, because it goes to a public vote, this is the process, and this is what could happen.
Jordan, does that help you?
Yep.
So you get with Jason and figure out.
Okay.
I'm reluctant to bring up Jerome. I'm reluctant to bring Jerome's name into this because the last time this happened, he got the heck beat out of him, and he's not here to run an ambulance, but he does realize that he's going to get those calls because he's the fire department administrator, and so
He's the closest to what you
Yeah.
got to be able to
And-
relate to what
If you're
I
out
do
there and
and
you're
what I
listening, you do not kill the messenger.
Right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the other one that I want involved in this and make sure that they have a voice and some input would be our emergency manager for the county.
That's a great idea. So, Jordan, if you can put that in for a future date and then just have a special meeting. And Jerome, you have something to say?
I just recognize Commissioner Lentz from Custer County. If he's at, Jim, do you got anything you want to add here? Or?
Did he bring?
Come on up.
Did he bring any pizza?
Good morning. I'm here to make sure that we get included when we draw up our district. If we stop at the Custer County line, our tax base isn't real great. We just include Fairburn. Buffalo Gap's not included, so it'd be Fairburn, Hermosa, and then the county line's just a mile south of Hermosa, so there's not a great bit of tax entity there. And the Battle Creek Fire District goes into Pennington County, and we were looking at least following those lines that go into Pennington County. But we'd sure like to work with the commission and get that accomplished.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Yep,
Yeah,
Commissioner.
you know, that's a good point. I mean, it was brought up the last time we talked about this, but, you know, when you're talking about a taxing district and or a service area, those can surpass county boundaries, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And we've talked about that, and the district that's there right now, Jerome.
Yeah, the map that Leo sent us includes exactly what Commissioner Lentz is talking about, both eastern Custer County and the south central part of Pennington County.
Well, were you the school teacher at South Middle School?
Yeah. Well,
I did pretty well after you swatted me, by the way.
Huh?
You used to give swats to us when we wouldn't listen. But I'm older than that now. I don't need one, but
It's
it sure
good.
did me
It
some
was
good.
a good deal.
Yeah. Could you imagine if they could bring
If
that
it
back
were,
in the
if you had Weifenbach in your class, there
I
you
didn't
go,
have him in
you
his
made it
class.
through this part.
He was just the enforcer. You just knew you weren't messing around. So
did it do any good?
it did. Look at me today. I'm pretty successful, I think, just all because of that. So
Take
I
a free
appreciate
read
that.
down.
We're going to listen to whatever you got to say. I'm telling you. But go ahead.
What I was going to say was, just along with Custer County, I've been having some conversation with Meade County, encouraging them to come down and talk, because those lines do then cross over into Meade County too. So hopefully after next week's meeting, we'll be able to kind of get together and push them to the right place.
We're all in
so
this
all
together,
of this
so.
can get put together the right way. This is not my forte whatsoever. Taxing districts are not anything.
And
that
we're only
I've
going to help
ever
facilitate it. We got a brand new auditor that we're going to get under control over here, and she's going to handle all this, she said.
Awesome.
So on your way out, you can just say hi to Sabrina and tell her that, you know, she's going to help us get through this. And we definitely have had that conversation about Custer County and Meade County, and we understand Jason's whole idea is safety.
Yeah.
So he wants to make sure, and we want to make sure there's no donor hole. So
Well, for years I went on emergency calls, and I can't imagine what it'd be like to go on an accident call and not have an ambulance to call.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's-
that
we
just
hope
wouldn't
to
work.
We hope to eliminate that, and that's would be what we're trying to facilitate, so we can get it up front. And so,
Thanks.
Thank you for coming today.
Yep.
All right. I'm glad to see you're doing well. That's it. No, I don't think we need any, unless anybody else wants to say anything. And Code of conduct. What item is that? Jordan?
Absolutely. So this is the Pennington County Petition Circulator Code of Conduct. It needed to be updated because we did not include concourse. And so we have to at least come up with something there. And when we opened this door, there's a lot of different thoughts and ideas as to whether or not we should allow anything indoors, outdoors, that kind of stuff. So we've updated some things here. I've got a little, Kenner in my office prepared a memo that kind of highlights the issues that we currently have right now. And so since relocating to Concourse, the code of conduct did not include this facility, which means we didn't have any specifically designated zones that was appropriate for people trying to circulate petitions. So we wanted to make sure that we've got that updated. And right now, the first place that we want to look at right here is the benches out front. There should be a little petition circulator area designated for those. It will not impede traffic coming into the building, and then people can conduct their county business and head on through, but still passing by, it's public enough that I think it suits the needs of a petition circulator. And the reason to bring this up now and get this approved as soon as possible is because we do have, elections coming up. We've got the primaries coming up, and people need to be able to know where to go if they wanted to get a petition circulated and signed.
Thank you, Jordan, and I think maybe I spearheaded this a little bit because I had phone calls, and I know the auditor's office has been dealing with this a little bit, and so I tried to give her some clarity on it. And I mean, I don't necessarily know if we need both sides, and I think one of the commissioners has said that's not a bad idea, or some of the petitioners said, I came here the other day because there was petitioners outside blocking the entry with a table, and I asked them to, hey, just move it to a side and just please wait till people finish their business. Right. If they're coming in, don't accost them. But if they're leaving, you can, then they feel comfortable they're finished with their business. And so I think if that would be part of our policy, if we let the people come inside during inclement weather, and we posted a nice sign over there that said, these petitioners are here during inclement weather. If you're on your way out, if you wanted to visit with them or whatever, just so everybody felt comfortable with it. That would be my recommendation, and not letting people put up tables to impede people's traffic patterns.
Right. And it's already in the code of conduct that you can't impede the foot traffic of people trying to conduct business.
To be fair to him, he didn't realize that's what he was doing, but his walk into the entrance, his table was right there. You had to walk through his table, basically, or around his table. So they did move it. Very cordial, very...
And I think just getting this out in advance of everything so that it goes into their packets when they pick up petitions, they would know, oh, okay, these are the areas I'm supposed to be.
That being said, I'll let the commission decide what they think here.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Commissioner.
Because I believe in here, I've read the memorandum, currently we're just saying it's outside. We've not developed a weather policy that says you would come inside based on this situation.
We have not. So all we did was we plugged the gap of everything outside and then brought up as a talking point, because we'd have to probably go through legal and make sure that we can have something inside for inclement weather. And if we say it's only during inclement weather, then we trigger something that has to somehow be, okay, well, whose idea is inclement weather? Is it the chairperson? Is it the petitioner themselves saying, well, actually, I'm on a ventilator, I have to come inside if it's below 55 degrees outside? So what accommodations should we be making, can we be making, and would we be making if we decided to allow them an area to set up indoors? And I know that if the auditor would like to come up and speak, she has some very firm thoughts on allowing petition circulators indoors. I'm sorry to call you out on that one, but.
So did you have to move your table out of the way?
Okay, Sabrina Green, Pennington County Auditor. So in the past, in our old county administration building, we did allow petitioners to be indoors. There was a few times we had several complaints come to the auditor's office because people wanted to come into the county building and just do their county business. They didn't want to be harassed once they came into the building. That should have been left as outdoors. So after, I don't even know how many complaints it was, that it was then discussed that no more petitioning inside, because we wanted to allow the taxpayers to be able to come into our facility and just do what they wanted as business. So.
And that's what I support, because I think if you try to write a policy about whether you're putting the staff in a position who are there daily to have these debates and the arguments and interpretation, and I just think it's going to take up too much staff time. And I get back to I think that giving access outside is fine, but I think that you should have, when you come into a building, just as described, you should come in here to do your business and not to deal with that. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the changes to the Pennington County Campus Petition Circulator Code of Conduct as presented.
A motion and a second, so that doesn't include anything for the inside, right?
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Everybody understand the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, aye. So motion carries 4-1. So we'll move on to the next item, and my computer's going crazy again, Jordan, but so.
Legislative session.
Yep.
Legislative session.
Commissioner Drews.
Commissioner Drews, sir.
So a couple things that I want to bring to your attention. First of all, it has nothing to do with our legislative session, but it does have to do on the federal level. We've had bills now introduced by Congressman Johnson and Senator Thune, which would require the Secretary of the Interior to conduct a study to determine the feasibility of constructing a project to supply municipal, rural, and industrial water from the Missouri River to the Western Dakota Regional Water System and for other purposes. Just wanted to make that everybody aware that that is in Congress at the present time, and hopefully that can move forward, and that is something that's required before.
Okay, so they got to approve it. Okay, perfect.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Awesome.
So on the legislative side of it, I don't have a lot of bills that I need to talk about. Bill 1060, and Jordan may want to add in on this, but this one here has now passed both bodies. It's going to the governor, and what it does is that removes that 5% calculation that we have to have for the budget process. And so this would eliminate that 5%. Oh, Jordan's not here. Okay.
I have a comment on that.
Okay, so
that 5%, we have to hold back of your total budget, and when you look at the applied cash, and I think ours is around 4 million or something like that. And so when you throw that number in and say, I have to hold back 5% of my budget in reserves based on this law, and then when you put it in the budget and you go through there, that number gets calculated into your applied cash. And so anyway, I just think that that's a good thing.
yeah, it certainly is, I think, for counties. So then we go to Senate Bill 130, which is the bill that would for road repair for the construction that's taking place at Ellsworth. And that's calling for an $8 million, as we heard from City of Box Elder when they made their presentation here. That could possibly be up before the Joint Appropriations Committee yet this week. We haven't had a firm time or day that is going to be considered, but I have talked to a number of legislators, including the co-chair of the Appropriations Committee, in which they tell me that that does have some pretty good momentum going forward. So I do plan on trying to attend when they have that hearing for that bill. Just need to know when it's going to be. Also, the others that I just touched base on is Senate Bill 96, which is the governor's bill on the property tax. That continues to move forward, but it certainly hasn't been adopted at this point in time. And then the other bill I mentioned is because this is something that became somewhat controversial here a couple of years ago, and that is a bill has now passed the Senate, which would allow, if you have multiple garages, that they would be considered as part of the owner-occupied. And so you can't be billing them, taxing them separately for those garages or outbuildings. That has passed the Senate. Still has to go through the House, but it had strong momentum going through the Senate.
It blows my mind that we did that.
So that's Amber's bill, right?
I don't, is it hers? Okay.
Did you guys come up with that in the moonshine?
Trust me, I've had enough phone calls on this. Dennis Kroll, who was
Over the years, you probably have. I mean,
Right.
seriously.
So Senate Bill 97, it's now 97G because I had an amendment put on it, but this again is the part of going along with the governor's bill on his proposal to allow counties to have the option of voting in a sales tax to replace property tax. And 97G is a kind of a companion bill at this point in time, which would adjust the limit on the percentage of new growth allowed. And so right now, that new growth is at 3%. I think this would take it to 5% at that point in time. So another good bill, I think, that's receiving debate in the legislature. That's really all I have to report. There's a lot of other bills that are being killed on a daily basis at this point in time, moved to the 41st day, which there is no 41st day, so it kills them, or being tabled. And so that's all I find that's
Mr. Chair, you got
reporting.
an update on House Bill 1009?
Tell me what it is.
Revise the speed limit of golf carts and highways.
No. Haven't followed that one.
You guys see 91, the comprehensive plan one?
Oh.
Look at 91s. Jordan, if you would.
Sorry. Yep.
You just had it up there, but. Clarify the.
I can't explain what was in the bill, but that's been passed. 91 has been passed, and
91 and 92, yeah.
91, what's that mean?
In essence, it shifted around some of the language as to how people can petition a Board of County Commissioners for changes to zoning ordinances or comprehensive plans. In essence, the biggest change is that it incorporates the auditor's office by statute now. Before, basically people could bring in a petition for a change directly to the Planning and Zoning Department if a county had one. Not all counties do. So the biggest change with that is that now it has to go, the petitions must be received by the auditor's office, and then it follows a process within a certain deadline. It comes before the board, it comes before the Planning Commission.
I'm getting a lot of comments about you allow this, don't allow this, don't allow this, allow that. So basically, if they have a comprehensive plan out there, if there's people in that area, they can come petition the commission to change that to fit better what they feel necessary?
There is a way to do that, yes, and there has been
Why
before.
is that?
Yep.
So people can actually, in the community, have a stake in what they say?
Pretty much, yep. It's if someone locally wants to say, hey, this doesn't work for my area, the commissioners then have
And I agree with that.
There's
I
a
like
method.
that. I think that's probably, well, can you send that to me, though? I'm going to share that with
I
somebody.
can do that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
They don't understand what I'm trying to say to them, but anyway, Commissioner Durr.
Yeah, the other thing I'm going to say about that is, when the planning department advertises and they have special public meetings on the comprehensive plan and the changes, I went to a few of those last year, and 2, 3, 0 people show up to those meetings, and so again, there is an effort. There's a lot of public information put out there, regarding these changes, and with a lot of things, people don't pay attention until all of a sudden something impacts them. So.
Right, I get that, and that's the reality, but I guess it's a CYA to have those public meetings then, but people need to understand the significance of a comprehensive plan. I don't know how to actually drive that home, and that's, but anyway, who's next on the items here? Jordan's fixing my computer, so thank you, Gary, for that. That takes a lot of time and energy to deal with them people down there. Tried to sit there and listen to, so appreciate that. Who's next? Deb, you're next. Okay, we'll go to Mr. Roskinick. Do you have anything, sir?
One that I had a conflict with a dentist office, so nothing to report today.
Okay. I'm really trying to keep you guys in the loop with whatever I have coming up. And with a lot of the stuff Ron and I have been dealing with, the fire and everything like that. We took care of the petition thing today, so I can't think of anything else. Jerry?
Yeah. So, yeah, related to these ambulance districts, I mean, I brought it up, getting questions about, how it's taxed, and I've asked some of those questions and submitted to Sabrina, and we actually got an opinion back from Wendy Semler about that I'm having Tyler review. And then the other thing that will be hitting the commission coming up is, I believe March 3rd is going to be our first public discussion about a nuisance complaint. And so on some of these nuisance complaints that have been out there based on the policy change that we have, if they're getting, little movement on those, then the planning department through code enforcement and Dwayne are going to be bringing those. The first one, I think, is slated for March 3rd. I'm not sure if there is one or more. In conjunction with that, since we talked about that and doing kind of a public information campaign about being a good neighbor, based on the ordinance change that went through and some of that, I believe that Cody's going to do a news release on the 23rd of February and kind of tied to talking about the change in the ordinance, and then educating the public about kind of be a good neighbor. These are the complaint process that we get. This is what, the county's responsibility is and what we follow through with. And then I believe it's going to be on the 9th of March that Brittany and Dwayne will be going on KOTA 1380 and just talking about some of the complaints that we get across the county, some of the things that we look at, and then how we're handling those. And again, just saying, kind of, be a good neighbor. And, when we do get these complaints, then there is a process, and here's what it is that we have to act upon it. The other thing I did discuss, and Commissioner Weifenbach was part of the conversation when we had another meeting. So one of the individuals that is coming in front of the commission on March 3rd, I've talked to him a couple of different times. And so you will see we have, and this one is going to be in Green Valley Estates. And so we have people out in the areas that are operating a business in a residentially zoned area without a conditional use permit. And so the one of them might be, I'm a used car salesman. One might be, I do repo. And so the reason I have a bunch of vehicles on my property is because I have a repo business. And so then the way that we're currently doing it, which is, I'm bringing it up now because I did ask Brittany to kind of look at this. So the individual that got a hold of me, somebody complained about his property and the collection of vehicles there that would be in violation of our ordinance and our process. And then if you look to the left, there's another property that is worse than the one that was complained upon. If you look to the right, there's another property that has got a used car lot and stuff and operating. And so when we bring one of those individuals and we have a public meeting, I think philosophically, and not just philosophically, procedurally or operationally, we need to have a discussion about how can we go target one individual based on a complaint. When you pull the map up and the Board of Commissioners looks at it, you're going to see the same thing. You're going to go, well, what is that? Is that his property? No, that's another property. What are we doing with that? Nothing. What is to the right? Oh, is that his property? No, that's another property. And so when these individuals come forward, these are going to be the things that the questions they're going to be asking us. I feel like I'm being singled out just based on a complaint, but would you please look at the map and my surrounding area? I'm not going to say what's on my mind. I'm just going to say it's just a process that we need to look at when we're asking these people to comply and how we're doing our enforcement. And I did bring that to Brittany's attention.
Here.
Commissioner Hadcock.
And I appreciate that. That's why I said it's not as easy as just cut and dry when you make a nuisance policy, because you already know the neighbors, it starts, and I was telling you guys that it starts a neighbors fight. And then the whole thing is, well, are you being proactive or reactive? Yeah, so we'll see how that goes with the nuisance. I'm in favor of cleaning up people's properties. It's just, how do you do it so everybody's in compliance in one sense, and the other, what's our policy? So then you ask them, did you turn your neighbor in? No. So you have to turn your neighbor in. And then well, I'm not doing that because I just saw this. So easier said than done. We'll see how this goes when we do our process and if there's any changes or what we're seeing that needs to be different. But like I said, I've always been into cleaning up people's properties. Yeah, but a lot of times when you turn your neighbor in, you start a big fight, and then we have more issues than you've ever seen before with some of that. So again, be careful what you ask for.
I get all that, but I agree that I mean, with our big, beautiful website, we're gonna be able to track these things, so I don't know. They're actually gonna be on the website when you file a complaint. They're gonna be able to follow up on it, so they're gonna see right there. So there's gonna be a whole nother level of transparency, and you're right, we have to be careful what we ask for, but at the same time, we've got a lot of, you know, it causes that pitting one against the other. If we're in the area, then we need to, you know, have everybody clean up, and as we go, we'll just take it as it goes. I mean, if you don't take one step, you're never gonna get it to the other side of town, so.
Yeah. And getting back to the KOTA spot, which is bi-weekly now, I believe the next one in the queue, Jordan, I believe, is Shannon Ribberger that will be talking about, you know, the assessments and that type of stuff, so.
That's good timing too, and if we could just mention to Shannon about the people that want to do appeals in the process, and hopefully we can get those on the website, so. Yes, so that's about it, huh?
And vouchers?
Vouchers, we don't want to pay.
I have a
anything.
comment on vouchers.
I'm going to abstain first on the first one if you guys make a motion from the price. On the first motion, but, Jerry.
So on the vouchers, it's kind of a talking point for me, but Jordan, could you pull up the massive document? And if you would edit and find and go time clock plus TPS, whatever it is in there. So you're going to see an invoice being paid for Time Clock Plus, which is outside of the Tyler software that we're currently utilizing, and we're paying nearly $17,000 for a secondary timekeeping system. Some of the departments have individual contracts with Time Clock Plus, and this is one of the things as we talk about going through the budget process and we talk about going through, you know, operationally and what software, because again, it's just not, let's look at the HR office and saying that we're taking a look at it. It's also looking at the fact that we have a split HR org chart in the county, and then what everybody is utilizing for their departments for HR and personnel stuff. And so some have different modules and different versions of Time Clock Plus. Some have a higher standard that they pay for. And this is one of those things in Time Clock Plus where not everybody entering into Time Clock Plus imports into our current timekeeping system, and those are duplicated personnel efforts. And you can imagine what that takes to duplicate that record and put it into the software that actually pays the employees. And so as we look at some of these things we have, and you can go, I could pick out 10 invoices in here. And I think that as we go through the budget process and we have a look at what software is being utilized, and do you have an independent contract, or is it an organizational contract that we should look at that would better serve the organization? But, and I look at some of these invoices, you know, and I could add up almost every month, probably about 50,000 that I would say should be looked at as we go through the budget process. So, but Time Clock Plus, this is one of those, and here's a $17,000 bill.
Is that for, that could be for one department, or is that all of them? We have no idea, right?
I didn't pull the invoice.
Okay,
so.
okay, so in that, we don't know if it's a monthly or semi-annually, quarterly, anything.
No, I don't, without going in, which will be part of what we're looking at, to have Kenner pull all the individual licenses and see what, you know, if we do move or decide we're going to do something, you know, when can we get off this contract, or how far have you, you know, obligated us? Is it a year, 2 years, 3 years? So.
Okay. So, I mean, but if it costs us just as much to implement this because we're duplicating all the service and, you know, okay. All right, sounds good, okay. Any other comments on that, vouchers, or?
We just need to abstain from the first motion.
Okay, so we're gonna have to have a motion and have some abstinence.
So I'm going to make a motion to approve a voucher for the Price LLC in the amount of $1. No, I think it says 600.
We can change that to $1. We have a motion?
I'll second that.
And we have a motion from Durr, second from Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That
I'm going to make a motion to approve the remaining vouchers in the amount of $2,524,485.25.
Second.
Have a motion from Durr, second by Ross Connect. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm
And
practicing.
Jordan, could you check? My mic keeps cutting out. It has been all day. Yep.
Motion, we don't need a motion to adjourn, do we? We can just adjourn. Huh? Move to adjourn. Second by Hadcock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Tyler, get to work.